involving the alleged SSC scam and others, and also having a connection with Partha Chatterjee. Mind you, Partha Chatterjee and Arpita Mukherjee are still in ED custody. Manik Bhattacharya, another sitting Trinamool Congress MLA, is still being examined by Enforcement Directorate. And in the meantime, from another apartment of Arpita Mukherjee, huge sum of money is suspected to be have been recovered by Enforcement Directorate. The reason why cash counting machines, and also bank officials have now arrived at the very apartment which is in northern part of Kolkata. And the counting process is still on. Enforcement officials are yet to confirm an exact amount of money which has been recovered from inside the flat.
Right, Tamal. Are there any more residences, flats or any properties belonging to Arpita that are also under ED lens?
Well, there are several properties which have also been raided. There are properties belonging to Arpita Mukherjee have been raided today. Mind it, we had broken the story as how there had been several properties whose original deed copies had been with Partha Chatterjee. The documents which were recovered by Enforcement Directorate from Partha Chatterjee's residence, and they were clear proof of...
Right, Tamal. I'm sorry, I'll have to interrupt you because we are getting a major breaking development on the bulletin right now. This is related to the murder of BJP Yuva Morcha worker in Karnataka, and now the chorus has started for an NIA probe. The Shobha Karandlaje, who is Minister of State for Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, has now written a letter to the Home Minister Amit Shah asking for a probe into the brutal murder of Praveen Netaru. She writes in this letter that the eyewitnesses have revealed that assailants had come on motorbikes that bore Kerala registration number. Therefore, it is clear that they came from Kerala. She also alleges that this could also be a possible vindictive action by radicalistic groups like PFI and SDPI to disrupt the communal harmony. And she goes on to say that therefore she wants the centre to intervene in this situation, where suitable action must be taken against the PFI, the SDPI and other extremist groups. And therefore she wants that an NIA investigation should be ordered into this case. That is the latest coming on this matter. That's all we had for you in this broadcast. It's over to Rahul Shivshankar for the upfront debate.
Thanks indeed. Of course, we are sticking with this entire story here on India Upfront. The biggest story, of course, always on India Upfront of the day, viewers. Today, however, I will begin with revisiting 5 brutalities carried out because of uncompromising, unambiguous hate. The first case, and I want you to pay attention now to the visuals I'm going to show you one by one of those who have been killed by hate. The first case is that of Umesh Kole, who was slashed on 21st June because he protested the Sartan Se Juda threats to Nupur Sharma. The second case is that of Kanwariyas, a tailor from Udaipur, who was beheaded on the 28th of June, again for protesting the Sartan Se Juda threats to Nupur Sharma. The third case, viewers, is that of Saad Ansari, an engineering student in his teens, who was assaulted on 12th of June by a mob in Maharashtra for backing Nupur Sharma. The fourth case is that of Kishan Bolia, who was shot dead in Ahmedabad on January 2022 this year for allegedly insulting the Prophet. The fifth case is of Kamlesh Tiwari, a BJP leader who was also beheaded for allegedly insulting the Prophet. This killing, of course, happened in October 2019. There have been several other attacks on those who supported Nupur Sharma or allegedly insulted the Prophet in this country. Now, viewers, last night, and look at your screens. Last night, news broke that a young BJP Yuva Morcha worker, Praveen Netaru, was mercilessly butchered to death. 3 bike-borne assailants slashed his throat and left him to bleed to death on the street. While 6 police teams have been sent on a manhunt to trace his killers, So far, there have been no arrests nor any clarity on motive for the murder. However, Times Now accessed a Facebook post Praveen had put out less than a month ago. In this post, Praveen strongly condemned the beheading of Kanhaiya Lal in Udaipur by radicals chanting Sartan Se Juda. Could this post be the reason for his murder as well? Now viewers, what does his post say? Let's focus on the words. Terrible secularists made a drama of non-violence. Here he's not alluding to anyone in particular. A poor tailor was openly slaughtered and a video was made. These fanatics barking that our Prime Minister is the next target. Now viewers, in any democracy, this would not be seen as a post endorsing hate. This would be seen as an invocation against hate. He doesn't talk about people from any religion. He talks about fanatics. They're a different category, viewers. But Praveen, after this social media post, is not around to tell us who he was focusing on. Viewers, his grieving family says that Praveen was a social worker and had no enmity with anyone, only increasing the probability that he might have paid for his life because of the post. We caught up with his family members. Listen to him.
ಮಗ ಹೋಗಿ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಒಬ್ಬನೇ ಅವ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಅವನೇ. 3 ಜನ ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಮಗಳು ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಬೇರೆ ಎಂತ ಜಾಗ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಜಾಗಗೆಲ್ಲ ತಂದೆಗೆ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಪೇಷಂಟ್, 3 ಸಲ ಹಾರ್ಟಿದು ಸರ್ಜರಿ ಆಯ್ತು, ಮತ್ತೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗೆ ಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಗಂಡಸರಂತ ಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ ಕಾರಣ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಎಷ್ಟಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಕೋಟಿಗಟ್ಟಲೆ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ತೇವೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಶಾಶ್ವತ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಸಿಗುವಾಗೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಅಕ್ಕ ಅವರ ಕುಟುಂಬಕ್ಕೆ, ಒಂದು ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಳುವುದು ಎಷ್ಟೇ. ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವ ಏನು ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದಾನ, ಅವ ಏನು ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವನೇ ಅದನ್ನು ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ನಾವು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕೇಳುವುದು.
ಈಗ ಬಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಅವನು ನಮಗೆ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಅವನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತೀರಾ ಬಡತನ, 3 ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು, ಒಬ್ಬ ಗಂಡು ಮಗ, ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಪೇಷಂಟೇ. ನಮಗೆ ಇನ್ನು ಯಾವುದೇ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಟಿವಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿಯಾಗ ರಾಜಕೀಯವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದು ಮಾತಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ಸೂಕ್ತ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಇನ್ನು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಈಗೆಲ್ಲ ಆದರೆ ಒಂದು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ನಾಯಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಲ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥವಿಲ್ಲಲ್ಲ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಬೇಕು ನಮಗೆ ಮೈನ್ ಆಗಿ. ಹೋದ ಜೀವ ಹೋಯ್ತು, ಇನ್ನೇನು ಮಾಡೋದು? ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ಗಳೇ. ಇವತ್ತು 2-3 ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಅವರ ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರನ್ನು ಈಗ ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಪಡಿಸಿ ಎಂತ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋ ಒಂದು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಯಾವುದೇ ವಿಚಾರ, ನಾವು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡಬಾರ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಇನ್ನು ಮಾತಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು.
Now viewers, while the verdict is still out on the motive, those occupying posts of responsibility in Karnataka, even at the center, seem to be pointing their fingers at radical groups, in particular the PFI. Listen in. Let's talk about the PFI. Now, this is an organization that the NIA has linked to a lot of murders, arson, vandalism, all sorts of communal crimes in the state of Karnataka. The BJP in Karnataka has accused the Congress government under Mr. Siddaramaiah of appeasing such elements. Do you believe that the PFI should be banned?
Certainly it should be banned. Over a period of time, if you observe their activities, it is national, anti-national activity to create a disharmony and communal violences. They have done some direct actions, including murders, where we have booked them, and they were doing it in a big way during Congress regime. Now we have controlled them. At the same time, they have expanded their wings to other states also. From Kerala to Karnataka up to UP, they have expanded. Time has come to look of banning them very seriously.
पीएफआई का लिंक है ऐसे मैसेज मीडिया में वगैरह आ रहा है, मीडिया और सोशल मीडिया में। पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेट कर रहा है, लेकिन इसके लिए जो पीएफआई और एसडीपीआई को जो बढ़ावा दिया है वो उधर केरल में और इधर भी कर्नाटक में भी कांग्रेस पार्टी उसको बढ़ावा दे रही है। इनके खिलाफ जो कुछ भी केसेस था सिद्धरामैया ने इनको विड्रॉ किया था, इनको एक तरह से एनकरेजमेंट मिल रहे हैं, इसीलिए। लेकिन हमारे सरकार उधर जो है सख्त कार्रवाई करेगी और जो कल
Shobha Karandalaje, the minister at the center, the MOS at the Center for Agriculture, has already demanded an NIA probe, viewers. We just broke that news a minute or so ago, in which she says that the PFI is responsible and an interstate probe needs to be undertaken because eyewitnesses have said that the people who killed Praveen were motorbike-borne assailants. Their motorbike sported the Kerala number plate. All of this, if it turns out to be true, and that Praveen was killed because of the post that he put out in support of Nupur Sharma and those who paid for their lives for supporting Nupur Sharma, then viewers, a more basic question would have to be asked. Have certain leading lights failed the law by not taking a stand against those who routinely advocate barbaric sartan se juda prescription for alleged cases of blasphemy? Did these people enable the deaths I have recollected as I began this program? I will take you over what some of these people have said that have incited passions. I will take you over each one of their remarks. Sartan se juda slogans took place outside the Dargah. Gohar Chisti runs the Dargah. Viewers, Taqi Raza, UP-based Islamic cleric, Taqi Raza said, be on standby on Friday for more protests. He also happens to be a very close ally of the Congress party, the politician himself. No case, no action has been taken against this man. Imtiaz Jalil, AIMIM Member of Parliament, viewers, no less, stood in Aurangabad and called out his supporters to hang Nupur on this very Chauraha. Those are the pictures. That's him making that call. I don't even want to play these sound bites out, viewers. No case, no action against him. Shafiqur Rahman Bark, Samajwadi Party Member of Parliament, viewers, both Member of Parliaments, calls to behead is Kriya Pratikriya, action reaction, justification, viewers, for Sartan se juda. MP of Parliament, mind you. Fayaz Bukhari expelled Apni Party leader in Kashmir, announces a 10 lakh bounty to behead Nupur. That's another provocation, viewers. Maulana Mufti Nadeem, cleric from Bundi, says, chop off tongue for remarks against Prophet, will chop off their hands, gouge out the eyes. He was invoking a large number of people. He's out on bail. Qazi Abdul Qudus, Qazi of Kanpur city, says, ready to hit the streets, sar pe kafan bandh ke, no action, no case against this man. All of these people, viewers, could be categorized as enablers today, and I want to begin by asking some very basic questions. And I want to begin with Zubair Memon, political analyst, who is also leans towards the MIM. Now, Mr. Memon, are those that enabled hate by not condemning the Sartan se juda slogans to blame for the rash of hateful deaths, perhaps even the death of Praveen? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir? Zubair Memon, can you hear me? No, he can't hear me. He can't hear me. Something has gone wrong. Sayyid Masoodul Hasan, political analyst here with us. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Very clearly.
Clearly, very clearly. I'm asking you, are those that enabled hate by not condemning the Sartan se juda slogans to blame for the rash of hateful deaths, including those, perhaps, of Praveen? Simple, straightforward question.
First of all, we'll have to see this, that all those who are supporting the statement made by Nupur Sharma, including many of the enlightened people, those who are sitting in Delhi and in Mumbai and many places, they didn't condemn the statement of Nupur Sharma, and instead they all are defending Nupur Sharma's statement. So there is no need to condemn anybody's statement.
I'm asking you, Mr. Hassan, it's a very straightforward question. Today, murders are taking place, butchery is happening, invoking the right to behead people. Why? Because a large number of people who call themselves community leaders sanctioned it. People like you did not condemn it. Are you to blame for what is happening? It's a simple question.
Supreme Court had said that all things are happening only just because of Nupur Sharma, and Nupur Sharma is still free.
So should Nupur Sharma's head be beheaded? No, I'm asking you, should Nupur Sharma be beheaded? Should her head be severed? It's a simple question. No, 1 second. Fine. She said what she has said. 1 minute, wait a minute. People might find it extremely offensive. They have moved the court against her. They have filed police complaints. But can you show me any law that calls for beheading? This is a disproportionate reaction, a hateful one.
I'm just asking this.
I'm asking you, sir, take a position. Mr. Hassan, do you back Sartan se juda retributive justice? Yes, no. Yes, no.
No, I will not back this.
You will not back this. I want to now show you, viewers, how this man has made a flip. He was on this show more than a month ago, and he was asked, will you, 8th June, will you condemn these slogans? He and Zubair Memon. And what did they say? No, we will not condemn. I want to play out that, and I then want to go straight across to Tejaswi Surya, Member of Parliament, BJP and National President of the BJYM. I will first play out this clip. These are the hypocrites sitting on this channel, viewers, tonight. Listen.
Do you condemn the slogan Gustakhe Rasool ki ek hi saza, sar tan se juda? Yes or no? I say yes. Mohandas Pai, do you condemn this slogan?
Yes. Totally condemn it.
Sushil Pandit.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Pandit, do you condemn this slogan?
Mr. Hassan.
Not at all.
Okay. Mr. Hassan, Mr. Hassan, do you condemn this slogan?
No, not at all.
There we go.
Not at all.
There we go.
Okay.
Mr. Memon, do you condemn this slogan? Mr. Memon?
Not at all.
Not at all. Vivek
Srivastava. By the law.
Okay. Mr. Vivek, do you condemn this slogan? Mr. Vivek.
Yes.
Mr. Vivek, do you condemn this slogan?
It depends on who spoke it and in what context.
It depends, he says.
On who spoke it and in what context.
This is their freedom of speech and expression.
I don't follow Islam. I don't follow any religion.
सारा दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो गया. गुस्ताख है.
Viewers, that is what some of these individuals got up to. And then we saw, and I showed you the timeline as I began this program as Tejaswi Surya joins us. This happened on the 8th of June, that program. On the 21st of June, 28th of June, 12th of June, people were attacked or killed. Why? Because these people enabled slogans such as Sartan se juda and actions as being kosher under the law. These people, they need to be booked, viewers, and thrown into jail for incitement. I want to open this up. Tejaswi Surya, Member of Parliament, BJP and National President of the BJYM is here with us. Mr. Surya, first of all, Mr. Praveen was a member of your organization. Perhaps you even knew him. Who do you believe is behind the murder of Praveen, Minister of State for Agriculture, and of course another NDA minister have both come out and pointed their fingers at the PFI. The State Home Minister of Karnataka also believes it's radicals, perhaps the PFI. Who do you believe, Mr. Surya? What are those who are investigating the case telling you?
Well, Rahul, thank you for having me on the show.
It is extremely unfortunate that we lost a young, hard-working and a very promising Karyakarta today. Praveen was not just a upcoming leader, he was also a father of a 9-month-old child. He is a brother in arms for us, and with deep anguish and pain, I offer condolences to his family and assure them that the Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha and every single member of the Yuva Morcha stands by the family in this hour of distress. Today, we had a virtual meeting with all office bearers of the Yuva Morcha, the district and the mandal level office bearers. We all collectively resolved to collect as much donations as possible in the next 2 days. The day after tomorrow, I myself will be personally going along with this team, visiting his family and offering our support.
Mr. Surya, I want to ask you a question which is very important.
Concerned,
I want to ask you, who do you believe is behind this?
Yes, so I was coming there. I do not want to preempt or prejudge the issue at hand, but having seen a spate of murders or a cycle of murders in the recent decade in Karnataka, having seen similar modus operandi and the standard operating procedure involved, I can very assertively say that radical elements sponsored by organizations like PFI, SDPI, KFD may very well have a hand in this murder as well.
I want to ask you a question which flows today from the anger that we have witnessed, the backlash against not only the Karnataka government but also the BJP. BJP leaders surrounded by BJYM, your organization's cadre. We can see those pictures. Their cars were rocked. Some of them were roughed up. Others were asked to go back. Those who came to pay their condolences. Now, Tejasvi Surya, there is a feeling that the BJP went very silent when these Sartan Se Juda chants erupted, and when Nupur Sharma was being threatened, no top leader of the BJP came out and condemned these slogans. I can tell you, sir, that there are at least three people from Uttar Pradesh who are yet to be booked. There is Imtiaz Jalil, who stood in Aurangabad calling for the hanging of Nupur Sharma. Your government today is in power there. He's not been booked. Why, sir? Why is this free run? Why is the BJP of all parties giving a free run to this sort of radicalism by not speaking up?
Rahulji, I can tell you one thing very clearly. Unlike the Congress party, where the party's cadre is treated as a paid worker,
yes,
the BJP's cadre is part of a parivar, part of a family. So when we lose one of our own, it naturally causes deep anguish and pain to our Karyakartas. And it is a natural outburst of this pain, an emotional outburst of the pain that you saw today. And it is in no way, I repeat, in no way, our Karyakartas questioning the integrity or the intent of our leadership, whether it is at the state level or the national level. Even just yesterday, I have come back from Lal Chowk in Srinagar, having hoisted the tricolor for the first time after 30 years,
sir, those are separate
after
issues.
having organized a public program in Lal Chowk after 7 decades. No, Rahulji, the issue is, one second, Rahulji, I will tell you, the expression of nationalism that we did yesterday in Lal Chowk in Kashmir would not have happened but for the support and the unvarnished commitment of our party's leadership to the ideology. Having said that, I am completely confident that these elements of radicalization, whether it is in UP, whether it is in Karnataka or anywhere else, the government will do everything in its ability to bring them to justice.
Mr. Surya,
and as a society,
the question is,
we
when
must
Imtiaz Jalil made his comments
and practice boycotting of all these radical elements.
Comments early last month, the consequences of those comments are playing out now. Okay? Shafiqur Rahman Bark, Samajwadi Party MP, calls to behead is Kriya Pratikriya. He said this in Uttar Pradesh. No case,
Rahul,
no action.
I can tell
None of these MPs are being booked, sir.
Rahul, I can tell you with 100% conviction that insofar as the case of Praveen is concerned in Karnataka and all of these other statements that you have said, appropriate action will follow.
Sir, I asked the Karnataka Chief Minister, when are you banning the PFI? He says, I'm going to ban the PFI. When are you banning the PFI? Refuses to give me a timeline. Your state, your Sarkar at the center, you are at the state level. Jharkhand, we saw the BJP government banning the PFI.
One second, Rahulji. Let me tell you why. I am going to tell you why from the perspective of Karnataka. Before this, for 5 long years, we had a government led by Mr. Siddaramaiah and the Congress party, which, I want to underline this, which freed more than 1,500 cadres who were charge-sheeted with heinous offences like murder, attempt to murder, robbery, riot, dacoity, who belonged under card-holding members of PFI, SDPI, KFD. The cycle of murders that you're witnessing in Karnataka today owes its origin to that. So we had for 5 long years a government which forget building a dossier on these organizations.
Sir, you have been in power at the center for now.
Creating a vote bank.
Sir, you have been in the power at the center for 8 years. Sorry, that doesn't wash anymore.
1 second.
When we ask state governments, when we ask leaders from states like yours, sir, you say the center will act. When we ask the center, they say we are still waiting for the state governments to make a submission. What's going on?
Rahulji, I can tell you from personally speaking from my experience in Karnataka, this government for the first time is charging offences like these under the UAPA, is treating them as acts of terror, and without wasting a minute, the Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji and the CM have always recommended NIA investigations. Unless a comprehensive dossier is made, evidence that can stand the test of the court scrutiny is built, you cannot ban. And for the first time in Karnataka, at least an effort is being very, very honestly made to build dossiers against these organizations so that action like banning can be taken. And I'm very, very confident, because even in Shimoga's, Harsha's murder, which took place a few months ago, the NIA investigation was ordered immediately by Amit Shah ji. UAPA was framed against all the 10 accused, and investigation is going ahead in a fast pace. And what I can tell you is that all of these murders, like I said earlier, is part of a larger conspiracy, a standard operating procedure. There are these Supari killers, many of them, most of them who come from across the border from Kerala. But the ones who actually orchestrated, the masterminds are behind, all of them will be brought to justice once comprehensive investigation
is done. I don't know what we are waiting for, because the Kerala courts, the High Court in Kerala came out and said that, and I'm quoting the High Court there, that the PFI is an extremist organization. I don't know why it takes so much time to build a case against an organization that the BJP on a daily basis accuses of spreading terror, wants to book under UAPA. I don't know, but perhaps viewers, there might be a slip between the rhetoric and the reality. And if that is the case, then questions will have to be asked of a different nature also of the BJP. But if that isn't the case, as Tejasvi Surya is saying, then we will hold the BJP and ask the BJP for timelines and not give them another 8 years to come up with the proof, because that would not be acceptable. But Mr. Surya, I commiserate with you, and I commiserate with all those Indians who are paying disproportionately today. The law doesn't sanction it, viewers. Remember this. The law in India doesn't sanction any of these dastardly punishments that are being meted out by these radicals. The law is very different. You might hear the likes of Masood ul Hassan and Zubair Memon not speaking up against Sartan se Juda and punishments such as these that are decreed by all sorts of medieval madcaps. But let me tell you, viewers, the state does not recognize this. And Tejasvi Surya, therefore, I am asking you tonight to take a position and say that anyone in your state found making such a statement will be put behind bars forthwith.
There is no two ways about it. That is the case, and that should be the case.
I'll leave it at that, Mr. Surya. Thank you for speaking to me. I want to go back to the panel. I want to bring in Mohandas Pai, leading light, chairman of Aryan Capital, someone who has lived all his life in Karnataka. Mohan Krishna, spokesperson of the Karnataka BJP, also there. Zubair Memon, who I tried to address the first question to, who couldn't hear me. Mohandas Pai, I'm asking a very basic question. What's your view on this? Be honest today. Put your hand on your heart and tell me. Are those that enabled hate by not condemning the Sartan Se Juda slogans to blame for the rash of hateful deaths we are seeing? It's a straightforward question. Some of those individuals are sitting on our panel tonight.
All those people who made those slogans, supported the slogans, have to be put behind bars and persecuted for inciting hate. All those people who gave a bounty to kill people have to be put behind bars. And these two radical elements, who came on national TV are ashamed to be called citizens of this country. These two people are supporting this radical.
Sir, you know that Nupur Sharma has got from the Supreme Court. No, she has got from the Supreme Court protection against. No, one minute, listen to me. You listen to me, Mr. Ul Hassan. You are one of those who sat on this channel and justified Sir Sartan Se Juda. Don't talk about spreading communal hate here. Okay? Yes, I will show you. I'll play that out again. Let's play it out again, viewers. Which Hassan has showed up on this stage? Which Hassan are you, sir? Which Hassan? The Hassan that supported Sartan Se Juda, or the Hassan today that is quietly slinking away, realizing that you could be arrested for having done this? I want to play out that soundtrack. 1 minute. Let's play that clip out. Mohandas Pai was also there on that debate, and I will show you living evidence of this, viewers. We'll go back to 8th of June now. 8th of June, let's go back. Let's play that out, Nizam Bhai. I want to confront Mr. Hassan, who spread hate by endorsing hate on this channel, what he said. And today, he has got selective amnesia. Play this out. Which Hassan?
Do you condemn the slogan Gustakhe Rasool ki ek hi saza, sar tan se juda? Yes or no? I say yes. Mohandas Pai, do you condemn this slogan?
Yes. Totally condemn it.
Sushil Pandit.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Pandit, do you condemn this slogan?
Mr. Hassan?
Not at all.
Okay. Mr. Hassan, Mr. Hassan, do you condemn this slogan?
No, not at all.
There we go.
No, not at all. No, not at all, he said. The same Hassan. Which Hassan are you, sir, today? The one who enabled the rash of killings, or the one today who is trying to, distance himself because he knows the consequences? I want to ask the BJP's Mohan Krishna, spokesperson of the Karnataka BJP. I want to ask Zubair Memon. I'm not going to listen to your poison. Put his fader down. He's a liar. He's done a very convenient flip-flop, viewers. These are the individuals who enable these killings. I brought him on today only to confront. Zubair Memon, I want to first ask you, forget about what you said that day. I'll play that out again also. I'll play that out again.
Hear it out.
1 minute. You're not, of course, bothered. But I want to ask you, I'm not going to give you the opportunity to grandstand tonight on India Front. I want to ask you a simple question, Zubair Memon. Should any member of parliament stand in the square of a city and say that a person who has been accused under the Indian law should be hanged without a trial? Should they be saying that, yes or no? Mr. Memon, straightforward question.
You have a straight biased approach, Mr. Rahul.
Right, biased approach. This channel that distanced itself and condemned Nupur Sharma, this channel, for the remarks that Nupur Sharma made, came out and immediately, within a day of her saying so, came out with a complete statement regretting those remarks. This channel, which is today, viewers, standing up and asking why no arrests were enabled of Nupur Sharma, we have asked those questions several times, are being accused of bias, while these two individuals who rationalized beheadings, a medieval punishment, are claiming the moral high ground. Can you believe it? This individual, Zubair Memon, who can't bring himself to say that Imtiaz Jalil should be jailed and arrested for saying, hang Nupur on this very Chorhaya. The maximum penalty, viewers, for what Nupur Sharma has done, the maximum punishment is 5 years. 5 years in jail, up to 7, in very rare circumstances. There is no punishment for a beheading or a hanging. But these characters, the only reason I brought them here, viewers, today, these two individuals, I have no reason to fraternize with them or entertain them, is to today apprise this country about a mindset that encourages this and how these people are getting away with murder, quite literally. Murder. They should be arrested forthwith. They should be arrested forthwith. Mohan Krishna, I want to ask you, and I asked this question of Tejasvi Surya. All of you, and Ul Hassan, who can't tell us which Hassan he is today, has disappeared. He realizes he's beaten a very quick retreat. Because I want to go across now to the BJP spokesperson. Sir, there is no point wringing your hands in sorrow. No point. I'll come to you, Mr. Zubair Memon. I know you're only going to abuse me. I'm not scared of your abuse. I'm not scared of your threats.
Muslims get 60 seconds on the debate.
No, sir. Not to spread hate.
No, Muslims
I'm sorry. No, sir.
60
Not to spread hate, not to justify hate. So I'm going to lower your fader till you come out and you take an honest to God position saying that I believe that Imtiaz Jalil should be prosecuted. That Bark, the Samajwadi Party MP, should be prosecuted for what he said. Till you don't say that, sir, I'm sorry. I don't think we can have a civilized conversation. We don't belong on the same page. So I will not allow you to speak. It's very simple. Now you can leave the show, but till you tell me that I condemn these individuals and I want action against these individuals, just like action is being taken against Nupur Sharma, etc., I will not allow you to speak. I'm sorry. I'm being apologetic, therefore. I'm sorry, I'm apologizing to you because I don't share your worldview and I don't want your worldview to become currency. So I want to go across to Mr. Mohan Krishna, spokesperson of the Karnataka BJP tonight. Mr. Krishna, you can keep wringing your hands in sorrow, but I'm sorry, you were silent. Your entire party was silent when Sartan Se Juda slogans were being chanted. You didn't have the gumption to stand up and say this is wrong. Why? Simple question.
Rahul, there are so many things happening around in the country. There are so many slogans coming out in a way to demean the one community, the other community. So do you mean to say that we have to support everything? And do you mean to see, only when we say openly, that means to say that we are condemning it? Or do you mean to say that if we are silent, that means we are accepting that? No, absolutely no. We have left it to the court of the law and people to decide. When people look at it and when they take a decision, absolutely things are going to be fine. Rahul, now you have said Al Hassan, that whether you accept that or you are against it. In the other show he said yes, now he says no. Do you mean to say that it can be accepted? Come on, tell me, Rahul. What is the problem? Why if we are silent, it doesn't mean Maunam Sammati Lakshanam nahi hai.
Let me ask Mohandas Pai. Let me ask Mohandas Pai.
Maunam Sammati Lakshanam nahi hote.
Will you agree with me that the BJP kept quiet when these slogans were being chanted, when threats were being issued to Nupur Sharma? No one was asking them to defend what Nupur Sharma did. Certainly, no one has a right when they express themselves to lose their head. Do they? And do you believe what Mr. Mohan Krishna is saying today, that oh, so many things happen in this country, how can we be reacting to each one of them?
Rahul, the BJP as a government in power should have had a minister to say they will take action against people who march on the street with the slogan, threatening the citizens of this country, provoking violence, incitement to violence. They should have put their foot down, immediately arrested all these people, because the first duty of a government is to protect the life, liberty and property of citizens, and all governments in this country are failing in their duty. Because you can't go marching in the street and say, Sarsan ki juda, and we're going to cut your neck, we're going to do this. That is a threat. That's a threat to murder. And there's a threat to kill somebody. And the threat should be taken seriously, because that is provoking people. And we've seen the consequences of no action against those people. And all those people who made those threats, all the people who gave bounty on people's lives, provoked people, encouraged people to murder others, should be put behind bars and persecuted on the rest with a special court. Because this will spread. We cannot have such behavior in any civilized society under the rule of law.
Okay.
I think the government has failed in taking strict action.
Okay. Now viewers, I'm getting news that more and more Yuva Morcha members of the BJP are resigning in Koppal. So Koppal is also seeing protests against the BJP, and the BJP has to ask itself some questions today. And I have tried to pose those questions to him. Their answers are not convincing. But I will now once again give a chance to Mr. Zubair Memon to condemn Mr. Jalil's invocation, calling upon his entire cadre to hang Nupur Sharma. Do you think that was right? Do you think that was right, Mr. Memon? You're a reasonable man, I hope.
Can we get 60 seconds at least?
I'm asking you the question.
At least 60 seconds?
I'm asking
uninterrupted 16 seconds?
Please tell me.
If it's possible for a Muslim to get 60 seconds
Don't play the victim card here. Don't play the victim card here. I didn't even give 60 seconds to Mr. Mohan Krishna. Okay? Don't play the victim card. And if you are going to continue, sir, I'm warning you. I'm warning you. I won't give you even 1 second. Are you going to today condemn these slogans? Yes, no. Simple question.
If I get 60 seconds, I can condemn.
Get to the point. I've given you the time. Yes. Get to. Don't give me a lecture. No. Start with the answer.
I will not give you a lecture, as you said, that I will abuse you. There's a difference between me and you, Mr. Rahul Shivshankar. And you had pointed out a straight question on Imtiaz Jalil. He is a member of parliament from Aurangabad, Maharashtra, and you are claiming, he said, to his workers or his people around him in a sabha that hang Nupur Sharma. It's extremely disappointing that a senior editor like you or an anchor like you makes a wrong statement. I have heard Imtiaz Jalil's statement many times.
Here is a man,
and you are
who is now going to question the veracity of the reportage.
And you have
no, 1 second. Now I'm not going to let you speak. I'm sorry. I realize, sir, very much that you don't have the gumption to come out. You have proven yourself as being an enabler of hate. This individual.
You just don't want
this individual
to speak.
There's no question of you speaking. There is no question of you speaking. Have no illusions to have no illusions to freedom of expression. If you don't believe someone else has the same right. Sorry, lower his fader, cut him out. We don't want lies. I will pull out the bite of Imtiaz Jalil, viewers. And if you don't believe me, you can go straight and Google it. Just Google it right now. They will say that people like Burke, they will say, viewers, they will come out and tell you that everyone is misquoted. Tawqir Raza has been misquoted. Fayaz Bukhari has been misquoted. They will say Maulana Mufti Nadeem, cleric of Bundi, has been misquoted. Qazi Abdul Qudus, Qazi of Kanpur city, has been misquoted. They will say that. They will never take a position against hate. And today the consequences are staring us in the face. They are staring us in the face, viewers. The roll call of those that have fallen victim to hate is before you. Umesh Kole, Kanhaiya Lal, Saad Ansari, Kishan Bolia, Kamlesh Tiwari. There it is. And these are just a few. There are many more. I leave it at that, viewers. I leave it at that. Imtiaz Jalil, sorry. His soundbite, let me play that out. Listen in now.
औरंगाबाद के इसी चौराहे के अंदर उसे फांसी दे। नुपुर शर्मा को फांसी देना है तो वो औरंगाबाद के इसी चौराहे के अंदर उसे फांसी दे।
June 11th, viewers, June 11th, mark that date and note that almost a month and a half later, Zubair Memon, who is a sympathizer of the AMM, lied on national TV. Not for the first time. I leave it at that, viewers. We are moving on. There's nothing else to say. We are moving on to another very big story. Every single time, viewers, there is a crackdown. There is a crackdown on those suspected of laundering money in our country. Those at the receiving end of Enforcement Directorate's action powered by the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, they cry foul. These people come out and say that all these investigative agencies are abusing the law. Yes. Those at the receiving end of Enforcement Directorate's actions powered by the Prevention of Money Laundering Act cry foul. Their charge is that the law is wrong. The process that emerges from it and the party in power is misusing it. So much so that some of those who have been raided, summoned and arrested like Karti Chidambaram, Mehbooba Mufti and Anil Deshmukh among others move the courts to curb the powers of the Enforcement Directorate that flow from the law to check money laundering. But today this group got a reality check, viewers. The court has dismissed out of hand their pleas, citing violation of safeguards and arbitrariness by the central agency. Let's go into some detail. First, the Apex Court said there is no arbitrariness in the provision of the Act that empowers the ED to conduct searches and seizures. The Supreme Court has also said attachment of property of those involved in money laundering is legally valid under the law. The Supreme Court said this. 3-judge bench led by Mr. Kanwariya, Justice Kanwariya. The Supreme Court has also refuted arguments placed by the tainted mantris that the law is unfair as it shifts the burden of proof of guilt on the accused. More than this, the Supreme Court has termed the onerous bail conditions reasonable. In perhaps the most significant part of its order, the 3-judge bench also said it is not mandatory for the ED officers to disclose the grounds of the arrest at the time of detaining an accused in a money laundering case. This is very significant. The Supreme Court verdict comes, of course, on a day when the Congress has been out on the streets yet again, protesting the ED summons to Sonia Gandhi in connection with money laundering probe into the National Herald case. The question now to be asked is whether the Congress and other parties will stop bashing the Enforcement Directorate. That's the fundamental question. I don't want to delay the debate. I want to go straight across. Sanjay Jha, Dr. Shashi Panja, Minister in charge, Department of Women and Child Development and Social Welfare, National Spokesperson, the TMC with us. Dr. Panja, the ED is acting against a minister of your government. You have called the ED all sorts of names. You have said that it acts at the behest of a government. Some of your colleagues in other political parties moved the courts, seeking curbs on the Enforcement Directorate, on the laws that enable or empower the Enforcement Directorate. Viewers, and Dr. Panja, the Supreme Court did not listen to you. Is the time now for expressing certain regret? Number one. Number two, taking back your words. Number three, going out there and cooperating with the process. Simple question, Dr. Panja.
Good evening, Rahulji, and good evening to everybody else.
Good evening, ma'am.
Rahulji, do not misinterpret. I mean, there were almost about 100 petitions which were actually challenging the provisions, the various provisions in the PMLA.
True.
2000. So, this constitution does guarantee us the right to file petitions or to submit certain, but at the same time, we know that Supreme Court is binding on everybody, and we of course respect the judicial. We are just worried or deeply concerned about the encashing on the misuse of the laws, the various provisions, politically. So that is what we are concerned about. But what we are seeing in Bengal is, and our Honorable Chief Minister has very clearly said, twice, even today she said, and in the other day, that the investigation should be there, independent, it should have the autonomy, it should not be influenced by any extraneous factors. And two, it's what we are really worried is the perception which is building around it. So the investigation should be on, of course. We are all saying that the investigation should be on, and the moment the person that you were mentioning is found guilty, even the party will take action, even the government will take action. We are not objecting to the investigation. We are not objecting to the interrogation. But what we are saying that the perception which builds around it, and I mean, no wonder, much as Supreme Court has said today about this, Supreme Court has also, Honorable Chief Justice of India has also questioned the falling credibility of these institutions, of the central agencies, has also suggested that there should be an independent umbrella under which the CBI, ED and other SFIO should come under one roof. Supreme Court has also said, talked about the arrests, that they should not be indiscriminate. So much as Supreme Court has also spoken today about the constitutional validity of the PML or the various provisions which were being challenged, it has also in the past made certain observations about what is happening in and around the country.
Dr. Panja, let's make two distinctions here. One is, did the Congress and other members of the opposition and other political parties try to ring-fence the ED with serial petition, or rather ring-fence the accused by filing serial petitions about the constitutionality of the PMLA Act, only to be rebuked by the Supreme Court? That's the first question, which you haven't answered. I'm asking you that question pointedly. The second matter, of course, is one about the credibility of the investigative process and its ability to conclude investigations in a manner that lead to convictions. On that count, I don't think there should be any debate. In 2004 to 2014, there were 112 raids, 0 convictions, charge sheets were 114, assets attached 5,346. The figure to be noted here is 0 convictions, viewers. In 2014 to 2012, convictions rose to 23, but the raids also increased to 3,010. There was a 27% increase in ED crackdown under NDA, asset attached 99,000 crore, charge sheets 888. So everything increased. You could say perhaps the ED has become overactive because it is being pushed by its masters or whatever you want to call them to take action, or you could say that the government of the day has zero tolerance towards corruption. Whenever they even think that there is a hint of it, they set the process in motion. The conviction rate, however, remains abysmal. It's abysmal. So let's put that aside. We can come to that later. I'm only asking you about this ring fencing by calling into question the PMLA to curb the ED. Very simple, straightforward answer. Give it me short so I can open this up to others. Do you believe that this was the intention? Simple.
Are you asking me or Sanjay ji?
I'm asking you. I'm asking you, Dr. Panja. I'm asking
as much as you mentioned these statistics, we are just worried that yes, the harassment is on, the raids are on, the searches are on, but you have not been able to convict them.
That's a separate issue, man. That's a separate issue. That's a separate issue.
So how does it vindicate them? How does it vindicate
anyone from conducting an investigation? At that point, no one knows if the investigation will lead to a conviction or not. The point is the Supreme Court has upheld search, seizure, asset seizure,
attachment,
all of that.
Attachment and seizure.
Upheld it. So I'm only asking, was an attempt being made to stymie the ED by forcing this court case? Yes or no?
No, absolutely no.
Absolutely
because
not.
Our government is also intolerant to corruption. Our government is also intolerant to corruption.
Well, if you are intolerant to corruption, you may not have entertained continuing with the accused right now. In the
accused, there is no charge sheet yet. Well, Rahul ji, there is no charge sheet, no prosecution yet.
Okay, there's an FIR.
I'm not defending him. I am not defending him.
Okay, there was none against the Goa Chief Minister either when the governor supposedly alleged that he was involved with corruption, but the Goa Chief Minister, you asked for his resignation forthwith. So I just want to point that out to you also. So slightly duplicitous, but nonetheless. Let me go across to Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, simple question to you. You are out on the streets defending Sonia Gandhi's pride. You are attacking public property to save her face. Today, the Supreme Court has colored your face red. This attempt by Karti Chidambaram, an MP from your party, to try and browbeat the ED by questioning the nature of the PMLA Act has failed. What do you say now?
Well, Rahul, let me give you a politically agnostic answer, because the truth is that today you have a BJP and you have an ED, and the Congress and the others are saying that the ED, along with CBI, etc., has become an instrument of political harassment. With the powers that the ED has been given after today's Supreme Court verdict upholding, which I believe are pretty draconian powers, tomorrow if there's a change in government, another party can oppose it. So I do believe somewhere down the line, the question is not about the fact that money laundering is a serious economic crime, and it does require a strong law to protect the perpetrators of crime from carrying on and getting away scot-free. But, I mean, that is the fundamental issue you can't ignore. Number one, is it being abused? Number two, the conviction rate.
Clearly it is not. Search, seizure, arrests are not abuse. The Supreme Court has said it flows from the law, and the ED is empowered. They can even, in fact, arrest without giving you a reason. Nalin Kohli, are you satisfied with what Sanjay Jha and Dr. Panja are saying in their defense? Mr. Kohli?
Well, they are entitled to their view. I have a completely contrarian view. The fundamental point before the Honorable Supreme Court was validity of certain sections of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The Supreme Court is not a political party. It will go by what it has to adjudicate in terms of the legal position. It has upheld that law. There is a nexus between what the sections say and what the objectives of the Act is. And the Act's objectives are obvious. It's prevention of money laundering and proceeds of crime. In each one of the opposition party people whom they parrot and say that they are, cases of unnecessary harassment, huge sums of unexplained wealth has been found. 20 crores, 21 crores, unexplained properties, multiple properties. A person's net worth can be known from his income tax or her income tax returns. Now, if there is no corruption or no money laundering or there is no proceeds of crime, it's very easy. This is my income, this is the trail of the money, this is the asset creation. It's not very complicated. Now, the second part is they say that, look, this is all the misuse by the BJP. The counter question is, if anyone has a problem with any act or with any person, you can file a private complaint also under section 200 of the CRPC. But the most important reason is, why is the opposition and particularly the Congress party building this argument? The reason is the AGL case. I mean, here is a political party, the Congress party. It's a political party. It is supposed to take funds from the people for political activity. It's not a bank. BJP. It's not an NBFC.
Okay, scared that they will be opposed.
No, it's not just they will be exposed. It is they have no answer. They have no answer why a political party is giving money to a company.
Let me bring in Karan Verma, Mohandas Pai. Let's not go back to the politics of it. That's the crux of it.
Can it be denied, Karan Verma, that several amendments to the PMLA were made during the UPA tenure as well? Can it be denied that the Supreme Court even quotes the Finance Minister in 2005, Mr. P. Chidambaram, when he was specifically seeking some amendments to the Act? I think at that time it wasn't P. Chidambaram, I think it was Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, whichever one of the two. Yes.
Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. Look, Rahul, the fact of the matter is that today is a landmark day in empowering the ED. And we've been hearing this time and again, that politics of vendetta, and Dr. Panja just said that perception is badly affected by that. Well, it is so easy to blunt the arguments. If piles of cash are discovered from a residence, or if there is a case of disproportionate assets, it can be proven in a matter of minutes if you establish a trail of income and assets. So, if they really want to improve their perception in the public eye, they can do it in a matter of minutes. Why hide behind the axiom innocent till proven guilty? Okay. And I'm so glad today that the Supreme Court has upheld the section 24, which talks about the reverse burden of proof. If there is unexplained cash, the burden of the proof is now on the accused to prove that this is untainted money. It cannot go on. And I'm so surprised that Mr. Sanjay Jha or Dr. Panja, with due respect,
Karan Verma, sorry, I'm running out of time. Mohandas Pai, quickly, sir, 30 seconds. What do you make of this?
Yeah.
What do you make of this?
No, Rahul, it is very clear they tried to use the court proceed to stop the cases against them. The Supreme Court has spoken. Now the ED should accelerate the prosecution, file the charge sheet and get answers in the court. The problem is, our problem also is that there have been too many raids, too many cases. We need accelerated prosecution to improve the credibility of the entire process and stop such unjust criticism. And I think it's important. We have gone through a great case where the Supreme Court has clarified the law is very clear.
Yes.
Now they can't use the excuse. Now I hope the convictions come and the prosecution is done quickly in the next 1 year so that we stop this corruption.
Yes, absolutely. Now the test really is of the ED. Can it prove its cases? It should have no reasons now to claim otherwise. I'll leave it at that. The news are up next.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಲಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಬೇಕು, ನೈತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರು ದೇಶಾದ್ಯಂತ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅತ್ತೆಯ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನೆಹರು ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಋಣ ತೀರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ 2 ಹೊತ್ತಿನ ಊಟ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. 3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಕಿಂಚತ್ತು ತ್ಯಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ತಯಾರಾಗದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನ್ನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಳು ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ.
On the show tonight, viewers.
ED grills interim Congress chief Sonia Gandhi for the 3rd time today. Questions her for over 3 hours. Sonia has not been called again for questioning. Congress leader Yashomati Thakur issues an open threat in the wake of ED grilling of Sonia, says there will be law and order consequences if Sonia is touched. Law Minister Rijiju's statement in Parliament on UCC sparks row. Rijiju says UCC is party's ideology, which can be taken as nation's ideology. Opposition hits back, reminds the minister that BJP in India.
The fact of the matter is, whether it is imported inflation, whether it is tinkering of GST for a longer period, the fact is that the burden is on the common man. And the common man, frankly, doesn't really care about what's happening in the United States or the UK or Russia or Ukraine, they're worried about their day-to-day living and per capita incomes where they are in India. The pressure is as much, magnified on common people in this country than they are abroad. And of course, you have social security systems which exist abroad, which don't exist in India. So I come back to asking you the same question. Is the government really being rather hard-hearted when it looks at these issues? After all, running a country of the kind that India is, with poor middle classes, lower middle classes forming the bulk of the population, do you think the government is doing enough, to cushion the impact on these classes of people?
So let me say that as a policy maker, one has to make various trade-offs. So first of all, let me be clear that the government is fully cognizant of the spike in inflation. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen the measures we have taken, including the Reserve Bank tightening monetary policy. So clearly, the tightening of monetary policy is one response to bringing down inflation. But do remember that this is a trade-off, because if you do tighten monetary policy too fast, too quickly, yes, it will bring down inflation, but then it will slow down growth, it will slow down incomes, and so on and so forth. So there is a balancing act that has to be done. Ultimately, what do we want to do? We want to increase as far as possible the trajectory of welfare and real incomes. And in that context, we have to trade off between growth and inflation. So the trade-off that we are making right now is, rather than tighten so harsh that growth slows down, we are tightening somewhat, but not so much that growth slows down too much. So keeping GDP growth going, create jobs, which is an important question, which I hope we will come to later on. These are issues that are also foremost in our mind. So given this balance we have done, I think the Reserve Bank's response is the correct one for the...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's the one common theme between the Gandhis, Partha Chatterjee, Sanjay Raut, Mehbooba Mufti and Anil Deshmukh? Well, they're all facing the heat from the Enforcement Directorate. Mired in money laundering allegations, these politicians cutting across political lines have in unison alleged misuse of the ED by the Modi government. But today, that claim has been blown to smithereens. And not just by anybody, that charge has been busted by the highest court of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court today dismissed a petition filed by 242 petitioners, including three prominent opposition leaders like Karti Chidambaram, Mehbooba Mufti, as well as Anil Deshmukh. The court has said that there is no arbitrariness in the provisions of the PMLA Act that empowers the Enforcement Directorate to conduct searches and seizures. They even held that the said attachment of property of those involved in money laundering is legally valid under this law. And what perhaps was the biggest blow to those contesting the Enforcement Directorate's powers was when the three-judge bench said that it is not mandatory for ED officials to disclose the grounds of arrest at the time of detaining an accused in a money laundering case. Now the question remains, will the opposition concede defeat? Because even today, as Sonia Gandhi faced the Enforcement Directorate's volley of questions for a third day, her party's loyal foot soldiers hit the streets in protest. Their leaders have been calling the ED a BJP agent, an idiot and a vendetta machine of the government. Will they apologize tonight? It's definitely the BJP's expectation, but the opposition is far from it. Listen in to the war of words.
We welcome the order of the Supreme Court, but we are against the misuse. Supreme Court should check whether how they are going to stop the misuse of ED on honest people.
So they try to generate these kind of issues which are not worthy of being discussed. Secondly, whatever Honorable Supreme Court has passed the order, that validates the position of the government and the content in the law.
It is so surprising that the Constitution every day in and out is being shattered every day. The central agencies are being used for political purposes and for politicizations. Even the judiciary to a large extent seems to have gone in that way.
Court has just now upheld the PMLA and the ED's jurisdiction, and the Supreme Court has said very clearly that they have that jurisdiction.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court may have settled the debate on the Enforcement Directorate's powers, but is there merit to the argument that the agency is in an overdrive to target BJP's political rivals? Here are some statistics. If you look into the track record of the 10 years of UPA and the last 8 years of the Modi government, there has been a 27%, in fact a 27 times increase in the crackdown by the central agency. More raids, more convictions, more charge sheets filed, and way more assets that have been attached. Does that mean the agency is acting under the influence of the ruling party, or does that simply mean that the agency is now acting more independently? And that brings me to the legitimate question tonight. Has the Supreme Court exposed ED bashing brigade? That's the question, and that's the debate. SC powers ED. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Gaurav Bhatia, national spokesperson of the BJP, Subrashta, author and founder of The Churn, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, advocate Kapil Madan, Congress supporter, Akshay Marathe, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. But my first question goes to senior advocate Biswajit Deb, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. I want to ask you, Mr. Biswajit Deb, is this debate now settled given the fact that the Supreme Court has thrown out, and this was a petition of several political leaders from different political parties. The Supreme Court has found no merit in the charges made by these leaders and has thrown out the case and upheld the powers of the ED. Can you still find fault with the ED when actually when the ED raids people, tons of money is found over there, and courts have failed to give bail to several of those who have been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate? Does your charge fall flat tonight?
Well, Supreme Court has upheld the validity of the PMLA Act and its power to seize, attach and arrest and all these things, issues. But we are not on that. Supreme Court cannot do anything while we can see that ED, CBI and other central agencies under the garb of the Act are being misused politically against the leader of the oppositions, various opposition leaders, while conducting the investigation. Well, this is where we object to. Our objection is not with regard to what Supreme Court has settled today. Supreme Court has settled the law and Supreme Court has set out the guideline that what should ED do. But unfortunately, what ED is doing is not as per law. What the central agencies are doing is not as per law. And we can see that in April this year, our Honorable Chief Justice of India had also raised this issue, that the central agencies are not acting in a proper way, and that is why there is a need for an independent umbrella under which all the central agencies should be clubbed together. But unfortunately the central government is not willing to do, because their backbone consists of ED, CBI, income tax, SFIO, etc. They don't have any other backbone. Their backbone is CBI, ED and all these central agencies. So unfortunately, which is not befitting in a democratic setup, whatever is happening, you see all these central agencies are blatantly used against the opposition parties, against the Trinamool Congress, including the other opposition parties, at the sweet will of the BJP, whenever it is required to stop or resist the opposition.
Mr. Deb, let me ask you a very simple question. The loads of money that has been found, is it because the ED put it there? Because it has been found with the close associate of a minister, and he continues to be a minister despite his arrest, Mr. Partha Chatterjee. And the fact is that even as we speak, the raids are going on, the counting machines have gone in to count the notes from another residence of the close associate of the minister. Envelopes bearing his ministry's name and stamp have been found with the notes in it. Are you saying you vouch for Mr. Partha Chatterjee and his innocence and still call the ED an agency that is just going after the opposition?
Well, madam, let me clarify first. Let me clarify, which has been repeatedly clarified by the All India Trinamool Congress, that this lady from whom this cash was recovered has nothing to do with Trinamool Congress. She is not a member of Trinamool Congress, and neither Trinamool Congress has got anything to do with the cash. Let the law take its own course, and if Partha Chatterjee is found guilty, he will be punished as per the provisions of the law, and we will throw him out. But the question is, please do not delay it. Our request to the investigating agencies, don't drag it. Don't drag it as you have done in Sharada case, in Narada case, in chit fund case, and used it blatantly against the Trinamool Congress leaders whenever required, just for the purpose of political gain. Don't do that. Don't do that. Complete the investigation within a time-bound schedule. File a charge sheet if there is anything, any evidence, and let him face the trial. And send him to jail if he is found guilty.
But till such time, Gaurav Bhatia, but till such time the trial happens, the conviction happens, he will continue to be a minister in Mamata Banerjee's government. That's the position that Mr. Biswajit Deb is taking. Do you think, once again, there is nothing to do between the money that has been found in Arpita Mukherjee's residence and Partha Chatterjee?
Navika, the Honorable Supreme Court has given a landmark verdict. It has reaffirmed the credibility and the powers of the ED. And at the same time, the opposition is fighting a battle to save the little credibility that it has. And let me analyze, certain points that have been made on factual basis. Is it not true that in the National Herald case, Congress party chief Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi moved the High Court and the Supreme Court? Both the courts decided not to quash the charges against them because there was merit prima facie. Second, Karti Chidambaram was today before the Supreme Court. The charges have not been quashed. Mehbooba Mufti was before the Supreme Court, charges not quashed. Nawab Malik, Navika, you would recollect, 5 months he has been in jail. What did the opposition say? It is political vendetta. But he doesn't even get bail from the competent courts of the country. Satyendra Jain, कट्टर ईमानदार, जनता जान गई है कट्टर बेईमान है, 2 महीने से बेल नहीं हुई है, जेल में है. And now look at the duplicity. You remember that case of Ashish Mishra? They were gunning for the minister because his son had done something wrong, allegedly. Now the matter is pending. But Nawab Malik, minister in NCP, hasn't resigned. Satyendra Jain, minister in Aam Aadmi Party, continues to be a minister. And Partha Chatterjee, 21 crores, a separate flat for his pet dog. Foreign exchange reserve around 54 lakhs. He continues to be a minister, but the trial should be completed. Did you apply the same principle for the minister in the union government? No, you didn't. And coming next, they say ED is an idiot. And Rahul Gandhi for them is Rahul Einstein genius. And the difference is this: ED has seized assets worth 1,04,000 crores, but it is an idiot. And Rahul Gandhi, who doesn't even attend the parliament, has asked 0 questions in the parliament, is out on bail on corruption charges, is a genius. This is the irony of politics of today from the opposition side, and people can see through it.
Well, Kapil Madan, I want to ask you, when the UPA was in power,
and the irony of ED is 0.46 conviction rate. Conviction rate is only 0.46%.
Sir, during the UPA,
I'll answer that also. My turn will come. I'll answer that.
Okay, during the UPA, may I just give you statistics? During the UPA, 0 convictions in 10 years. At least there are 23 convictions in the last 8 years. Maybe you would like to chew on those statistics for a while till I get Kapil Madan in. Kapil Madan, I want to ask you. The CBI was a caged parrot. The CBI carried out cases against starting from Narendra Modi to Amit Shah to MK Stalin, when even the support was pulled in, the alliance was broken, Jagan Reddy, Gulab Chand Kataria, all of these cases we remember during the Congress regime, but they were not vendetta. But now, in the NDA regime, if there are agencies that are asking questions, only asking questions after Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi have not got relief from the courts, well, it's being called political vendetta and there is satyagraha on the streets. I want to ask you why.
So Navika ji, one thing Mr. Bhatia mentioned that there is a case of corruption. So I don't know from where he is talking about corruption, but because National Herald is not a case of corruption, because he himself is a lawyer, I would like to ask him straight. I've asked this question to Mr. Patra also on your show. He could not answer. Again, since Mr. Bhatia is a lawyer, I will invite him on national television to show which section of Prevention of Corruption Act is attributed in this case. I would be very happy to be enlightened by Mr. Bhatia, and perhaps his answer would reveal.
What is the corruption charge?
Who is the genius,
who
is intelligent, who is not. Let him first respond.
Can I respond?
Yes, sir.
Yes, let me respond. So first of all, the sympathizer of the Gandhi Parivar has no defense for the wrongdoings of the Gandhi Parivar. Let me make it very clear. One, there is a case under 424/67 of the IPC which has not been quashed by the Supreme Court, and Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi are out on bail. So if there is an offence under the Indian Penal Code, you think that is not lack of probity for the leaders like Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi? Second, the Money Laundering Act prescribes that there has to be a scheduled offence, and now they are being interrogated. So that again, there is a possibility tomorrow they will be charged under the Money Laundering Act. I wouldn't like to preempt. Third, is this not corruption when you take a place which has been allotted to a party and use it for your personal gain? 2,000 crore worth of property assets transferred to Young India. Young India did not even pay a penny from their pocket. And this again needs to be interrogated. There are orders of the income tax also. So time will unfold and reveal how corruption, act of money laundering and illegal offences have been committed by the Gandhi Parivar.
Now can I respond, Navika ji, to Mr. Bhatia?
Please go ahead.
So Navika ji, Mr. Bhatia's response reminds me of a person who goes for an exam, does not know the answer and writes everything except for what is the answer of that question. My question was very, very specific. Is there a section of Prevention of Corruption Act attributed in Gandhi's case? He could not answer. He has spoken everything except to the question asked. So that is point number one. Now let me now respond to the other point where you say that why ED is doing its job and they're doing it aggressively, they're doing it rigorously. So Navika ji, in your opening remarks you mentioned that there are more conviction. Now, if ED has registered 5,000 odd cases and 23 cases ends up in conviction, that comes to less than 0.5%. I don't know on what logic you say that, you know, the conviction is more. Perhaps, you know, there could be a different definition of more. In fact, what I understand of more is
why don't you answer,
you know,
why don't you answer the simple question that Karti Chidambaram went to court, Karti Chidambaram went to court and hasn't got any relief against the ED. So why don't you talk about that? But breaking news coming in, those are the new pictures of a cash haul at Arpita Mukherjee, the close associate, allegedly the close associate of Partha Chatterjee, the Trinamool Congress minister. It is said to be more than 15 crores according to current estimates. Counting is going on. It might take an entire night for the counting to take place, and about 3 kgs of gold bars have also been found. 3 kgs of gold bars that have been found. Mr. Biswajit Dev, those pictures on our screen are the latest haul from Arpita Mukherjee, who has nothing to do with the Trinamool Congress, who has nothing to do with Partha Chatterjee, and you know, just some deeds, property deeds have been found from each other's houses, and you know, some diary entries which point towards money and hisab kitab that is showing up in another person's house, but allegedly nothing to do with it. Let me get in Sanjay Hegde. Sanjay Hegde, money is found in the place
we again repeat that we have got nothing to do with Arpita Mukherjee, and neither we have got anything to do with the cash. Trinamool Congress does not support any corruption. Let me make it clear, and we are not on it.
So do you have anything to do with Mr. Partha Chatterjee? Do you have anything to do with Mr. Partha Chatterjee? He was a minister in your government. He continues to be a minister in your government.
Well, let me ask you one question. Has anything been recovered? Any cash been recovered by the ED from Mr. Partha Chatterjee's residence? Can he show us? Can the ED show that cash has been recovered from Partha Chatterjee's residence? Okay. We are not supporting. We are not advocating for anyone. If anybody is found guilty, whether it is Partha Chatterjee or any leader of Trinamool Congress, party will not spare him. We do not support any corruption whatsoever. But let it be proved before a court of law. Don't hold media trials. Don't hold kangaroo courts. I am again repeating, this was exactly what our Honorable Chief Justice of India also said. Please let the investigation go on. Let the law take its own course. And if the person is found guilty, we will take appropriate action.
All right. But Sanjay Hegde, Mr. Sanjay Hegde, Senior Counsel, I want to ask you. Now the media is being accused of holding a media trial. I'm only saying that if such visuals come up, is the media supposed to look at those visuals, admire the cash and ask no questions? Number one. And number two, while I'm not saying, I'm not precluding a judgment on this matter, because the matter will go to court, the ED will have to prove its case in a court of law. I'm not taking a position on that. But I'm saying, when an agency goes and raids people and then finds cash, and it says that it is in connection with this, the proof of the pudding will be in the court, but cash is recovered. Do you think after that you will still call the agency as an agency which is carrying out a vendetta?
Let's keep the politics aside out here. I just want to explain to people, to your viewers, what the court judgment is and how dangerous it is. You see all this cash bundle. You say it belongs to X or Y and it is out of money laundering. Now just take an ordinary person who possibly bought a flat from this Miss Mukherjee about a year ago. He didn't know anything about Miss Mukherjee. He saw a flat, he bought it. Today his judgment empowers the ED to say that, okay, you bought that flat. That is proceeds of crime. I am attaching the flat. I might decide to arrest you because you were also involved in this money laundering transaction. I might further decide that I don't even have to give you the reasons because the ECIR is political. There are so many details. I don't have to give you reasons. And you will not get bail because you do not satisfy the two tests. We have made, as a republic, we have made a very harsh law. So many people, including the 3 people you mentioned, went to court and said, look, this appears to be unconstitutional. Today, a 3-judge bench has said, no, it is constitutional. Yes, the 3 judges' judgment is entitled to respect, but I do think that there are times where courts have made mistakes. It was a constitution bench of the Supreme Court in 1976, which said that in idiom Jabalpur, that your right to life is a gift of the constitution and can be suspended. Many years later, children of the same judges had to overrule it. This is the upholding of a harsh law, which to my mind has been upheld by people who are more executive minded than the executive themselves. It is dangerous. Forget all the politics. It is dangerous for ordinary men and women who will get caught in the grip. And it's not necessarily the top ED officers. Now every small official within the ED can become a mini director. You said that the agencies produce visuals for you. Should we look away? You saw what happened in the Wankhede case. There were so many visuals, so many people being summoned. Everything was fine. Everything became a subject of comment. What happened at the end? What we really need is reasonable laws which can be uniformly administered. I do not think that today what is happening with the ED is healthy for our democracy.
Well, Subhrashta ji, the law was made when the Congress was in power. There were a few amendments that were made in 2018 and the jury is still out on that. Nobody questioned these laws during the time when it was passed in the Congress era. Now the same Congress leaders are saying that the judiciary has gone bad. Mr. Sanjay Hegde, if I heard him correctly, said that these judges are more executive minded than the executive itself. And the same Congress leaders who actually brought in the law have contested the law before the Supreme Court when the shoe was on the other foot. Subhrashta ji, what is the ordinary person on the street expected to feel about this and understand about this?
Navika ji, I have a couple of questions to ask of Mr. Sanjay Hegde. What he says is an opinion, and his opinion is as valid as any one of our opinion on the show. Has ED ever knocked on his doors or on my door or on the doors of any of the individuals sitting here in this panel? We all have toiled hard and have reached to wherever we are today. And I don't think ED is in the business of harassing people like you and I who have made a living out of sheer hard work. If there are, politicians being held accountable by the ED, there are multiple other people who are also being held accountable for the ED who are not politicians, and they don't make to 9 to 10 prime time shows. But why are we dismissing the very fact that these politicians are under the radar because of some nefarious financial transaction here and there? I have utmost respect for Kapil Madan's, illustrious logical arguments that he tried to give me, all of us on the show. But let me ask Mr. Madan also, if Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi are too clean on the National Herald case, why don't they just do a press conference and put the matter to rest? Ordinary citizens like me have been asking this for a pretty long time, ever since the name came up in the National Herald case, which has been more than a couple of years now. What really stops Congress politicians at the top, which is Sonia and Rahul, whose name is mentioned, in this particular case, to come up, do a press conference, address a couple of questions by journalists like you, Navika ji, and maybe, a couple of us can float in our questions and put the matter to rest? Why has it become a show and a drama on the streets of Delhi and on the streets of Delhi alone. I don't see, Rahul Gandhi going out on the streets of, his own constituency to protest against this. It's only Delhi. It's only, at a place where the national media can run to cover him. And then the Congress politicians and, of course, the supporters expect us to believe that they are crystal clear. This is also, Navika ji, a matter of perception. And politics, fortunately or unfortunately, is run on perceptions. If there is a perception flaw with respect to the Congress leadership, which it is, in 2013 they were ousted on matters of corruption, and Kapil Madan may try to wriggle his way out to say that it's not a case of corruption, it's a case of gross financial misappropriation. The whole National Herald, Young India, Private Limited, and that entire case is mired in financial impropriety. Times of India, a sister entity, or rather the parent entity of Times Now Group, actually covered this entire story. And look at the way in which large amounts, swaths of land and resources have been accumulated by the company whose ownership lies with Sonia and Rahul. Assets worth 300 crores plus from an organization that had just 5 lakh in its accounts for as late as 2010. So these are questions which need answers, and these answers cannot come on television debates by a couple of supporters who support the Congress party. They have to come out of the horse's mouth, which are the directors who have been named in this controversy. It's a pretty plain and simple logic. And my original question as to ED is not harassing me, or ED is not harassing any middle class citizen that I know of.
Well, so let me ask
salaried or whoever.
Yes, Kapil Madan. Kapil Madan, you have a question about why Young Indian case is being, and where is the corruption? I'll tell you. AICC gives a loan to Young Indian, and then that loan is not returned, and National Herald stops its printing, and then Young Indian is taken over by Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, and you say this is not. I want to know, is the political party, the AICC, in the business of financial lending?
Now, Navika ji, 3 quick points. One thing, you are not a lawyer. I will not, raise this question to you. Again, Mr. Hegde or Mr. Bhatia can clarify. If there is a corruption issue, the first thing the agency will do is to invoke Prevention of Corruption Act, which is not the subject matter of this case. That's point number 1. Point number 2, my friend Surashtra here made 2 remarks. First is that she said that Mr. Gandhi is doing because he needs a media coverage. So I just wanted to, remind her, he is the same person against whom the entire BJP will start talking about him while discussing something else. So if you think he needs a media, attention, or if he is doing, a protest to get a media attention, then think you are, living in a different world. Now, the other point,
you're talking about the Prevention of Corruption Act. May I tell you, this is diversion of funds, and that is called money laundering, and that is the case. You've argued these issues in a court of law. The court of law has not given you any relief, or given the Congress party any relief in this, and big lawyers have argued your case. So let's not waste the time of the Newshour on this, but let me get Akshay Marathe in from Dia. Mr. Akshay Marathe, my question to you is simply, it's true the fact that the conviction rate is low for agencies in India. Whether you look at Enforcement Directorate in PMLA cases, or you look at murders, or you look at thefts, or you look at corporate civil cases, everywhere conviction rates are pretty low, and we all know the backlog of cases that exist in the courts of India, right from the trial courts up to the Supreme Court. We all know that. But may I ask you, when somebody is raided or arrested by the Enforcement Directorate and cannot or has not, despite several appeals to courts of law, not got a bail, can you still vouch for the fact that the charge against the person, or the agency that made the charge against the person, is wrong and it is born out of vendetta? I'm asking you this question. And secondly, today in the High Court, there was a case that was filed on why Mr. Satyendra Jain should be removed from his position as a minister that he continues to hold. And while the High Court hasn't really given any direction for his removal, in its judgment, paragraph 23, it says, it is pertinent to note that at this juncture, while it is not for the court to issue directions to the chief minister, it is the duty of the court to remind these key duty holders about their role with regard to uphold the tenets of our constitution. The chief minister exercises his discretion in choosing members of the cabinet and council of ministers. The council of ministers has a collective responsibility towards the constitution, and whether a person who has criminal background has been charged with offences involving moral turpitude should be appointed and should be allowed to continue as a minister or not is a decision for the chief minister to take. I want to ask you, a party like yours that had its foundation in its fight against corruption, and it's a party that upholds and wanted to bring back morality in politics. How is that morality reflected to the people when you continue to have him in the post as a minister despite being in jail and not getting bail?
Now, the reason is very simple. The Aam Aadmi Party very strongly believes that Mr. Satyendra Jain has done no wrong, and we believe that, as in many previous cases against Aam Aadmi Party leaders, even Mr. Jain will be acquitted by court, as it has happened in several cases. It happened with Mr. Sisodia, it happened with many other leaders, that the BJP government filed all these kinds of false cases and eventually the courts acquitted them. So let's leave that to the courts. I don't want to defend Mr. Jain here unnecessarily. Let the courts take, let the law take its own course. But on the question of the enforcement directorate, I think there are two separate issues that we need to understand. One, as Mr. Hegde has explained, that the constitutionality and legality continues to be under question, and maybe perhaps later the Supreme Court might change its mind. But be that as it may, the allegation of the Aam Aadmi Party and many other opposition parties is that the enforcement directorate is cherry picking the cases that it wants to take. It is only and only picking opposition party and opposition party leaders to go after, despite the fact that there are all kinds of BJP leaders involved in all kinds of scams. Let me give you one example of this. In 2014, Mr. Suvendu Adhikari, who is today the BJP leader and a leader of opposition in the West Bengal Assembly, was questioned by the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI. But now that he is a part of the BJP, the Enforcement Directorate has forgotten that Mr. Suvendu Adhikari was involved in the Sarda scam. So my singular point is that the Enforcement Directorate's powers may be under question. The court can decide what to do with the powers. But today, as things stand, the agency is being used by the BJP to go after its opponents and not using it to go after genuine cases of corruption by members of the BJP. Now, we all know that there have been many scams. For example, the Vyapam scam in Madhya Pradesh, the thermal power plant scam, the ABG shipyard scam. All of these scams are worth thousands of crore rupees. The Gujarat Hooch tragedy, where 55 people lost their lives, also had some kind of money laundering involved in it. But we don't see the Enforcement Directorate that is run by the BJP going after elements that are involved in corruption and money laundering.
Respond, Gaurav Bhatia.
The involvement of the BJP.
Why is it that only opposition leaders are under the radar, not one from the BJP? Is everybody in the BJP Satyavadi Harish Chandra?
Especially Suvendu Adhikari. I want to hear what Mr. Bhatia has to say about it.
Let me respond one by one. I've heard everybody. First, the bogus argument given by my colleague Kapil that there is no corruption charge. Let me say this, that having a cheating charge, having a charge of dishonestly misappropriation of property and criminal breach of trust, which Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi face, is a medal on their chest? No, it isn't. It attracts a 7 years punishment, 420, which is more than most of the offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Evasion of income tax, that's not a medal, that's not a badge of honor. It shows how dishonest these people are. And let me also make it very clear, the argument that is being advanced regarding cherry picking and political vendetta. I challenge both of them to even cite one Supreme Court judgment or High Court judgment where a political leader has been able to successfully contest his petition and get the FIR and the charge sheet quashed. Not even one, Navika. The remedy that they have is to move the Supreme Court or the High Court and get the cases quashed. It's Bhajan Lal case which talks about political vendetta being a ground for quashing the FIR and charge sheet. Neither has it been done in the case of Satinder Jain or Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi or Nawab Malik or many others. Now coming to what Mr. Hegde said, yes, Mr. Hegde is absolutely right that every citizen has the right to avail the legal remedies available to him. But once you have availed of the legal remedy, the Supreme Court decides what is the law of the country and you have to abide with it. And when Mr. Hegde says ordinary men, I am flabbergasted because Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, as it is alleged, asset transfer of 2,000 crores. Definitely, it doesn't happen with an ordinary man or woman. What about Partha Chatterjee? 21 crore of currency lying. Doesn't happen with an ordinary man. Anil Deshmukh, 100 crore Vasuli racket every month. Doesn't happen with an ordinary man. So it's not as ordinary as Mr. Hegde is trying to portray. Now coming to the last point regarding the conviction rate. Navika, all viewers should know that the job of the investigating agency is to investigate and then file a charge sheet before the court. And once the charge sheet is filed before the court, the cognizance is taken by the court. Can you be quiet, whoever you are?
But he raised the question on Shubhendu Adhikari. You may want to answer that because he said that he wants that
yes, I will
answer to that
that
question.
I promise.
Yes.
I promise.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
I will. It is my responsibility, but let me finish my point. Regarding the conviction rate being so low, let me make it very clear with numbers. Once the charge sheet is filed, it is for the court to either expedite the trial or whatever time it takes to give a free trial to everybody. The investigating agency has no role and there are 922 cases under trial. Now coming to the last point, I would like to remind you that it is not as if the ED and the CBI and the other agencies do not take action against the BJP leaders. But you can't say that BJP should have more corrupt leaders. If we are an honest party, we are. Mukul Roy, he joined the BJP from TMC, and just for your knowledge, Mukul Roy was interrogated by the CBI while he was in the BJP. There is one Mr. PVS Sarma. He was a BJP leader from Gujarat. ED took action against him and there is a case against him. And there are many other examples, just like Ashish Mishra, son of a minister. He also was arrested by the CBI. So there would be many more examples, but that does not make you honest. You have to understand, Satinder Jain is under the scanner.
If you have a point there, but let me just tell Mr. Kapil Madan, who's been trying valiantly to defend the Congress party. Mr. Kapil Madan, PMLA Act was passed in 2002 under the Vajpayee government, but notified on July 1st, 2005. You know by whom? Mr. P. Chidambaram as the finance minister. And it was actually Mr. Chidambaram who also moved amendments in 2005 when he was finance minister, and the Supreme Court has even quoted him. And the same law was questioned by his own son and Congress Member of Parliament, Mr. Karti Chidambaram. Mr. Kapil Madan, the irony of this entire issue is that when the shoe is on your foot, you walk differently. When the shoe is on somebody else's foot, it begins to pinch you. The question is, life really comes a full circle when you're in power to when you're out of power. So law should remain above every citizen of India, and politicians are no different. Well, let's leave it at that for the moment. Thank you very much to all my panelists joining me on debate number 1. The big Kanwariya controversy, that debate on the other side. The Yogi government is in the midst of a controversy as the Kanwar Yatra takes place across the state. Thousands of Shiva devotees are taking part in this annual pilgrimage to congregate at some of India's holiest Hindu shrines. Yesterday, the DM and IG of the state were seen showering flower petals on these pilgrims from a chopper. That happened in the skies of Meerut. The SP of Shamli was seen rubbing the feet of a pilgrim. It's seen as seva by many. But that video has now gone viral on social media. Add to that the aerial survey of the yatra that was conducted by the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. These instances have triggered a massive political fight now, with the opposition questioning the selectivity of a secular government. Not only is the Yogi government at the receiving end of criticism for violating the secular oath that they took, the opposition has also questioned why the public exchequer's money is being used for giving more and feting more specific religious congregations. These charges were vehemently denied by the state and the top leaders of the BJP. Even the top cop in the state came out in defense of his people and said such elaborate arrangements are made during all festivals, irrespective of which religion follows it. Listen in to this fierce war of words.
कांवड़ यात्री अगर निकले हैं और उनकी सेवा समाज भी कर रहा है, हमारी पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता भी कर रहे हैं और सरकारी सिस्टम से भी हम सदा स्वागत करते रहे और स्वागत कर रहे हैं, तो इससे जिनको दर्द हो रहा है उनको कोई मुसलमानों से प्यार नहीं है, वह वोट बैंक उनका कैसे बन जाए, इसलिए इस प्रकार के जहरीले केवल बयान देने का काम करते हैं.
After BJP coming to power, especially after Narendra Modi ji becoming the Prime Minister, all these Hindutva rituals are being followed in the official functions. If you see the unveiling of the emblem, Ashoka emblem on the top of the new Parliament building also, all these pujas and rituals are being done by the Prime Minister of a country.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 2 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the debate with Gaurav Bhatia is Shantanu Gupta, author, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst. But my first question goes to Mr. Abbas Haider, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. I want to ask you, the explanation given by the Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh clearly says that this is being done for all religious congregations, every religion, Eid ho ya Kanwar Yatra ho, police makes arrangements for every such religious congregation. Why do you have a problem with this one?
See, we don't have a problem with the government administration throwing flower petals on the Kanwariya. But is this just the responsibility of the government to do that? Government was not fulfilling its promise to give security to the Kanwariyas. Government could not give a safe passage to Kanwariyas. Yesterday, 4 Kanwariya died in Ghaziabad because of a road accident. Similar thing happened in Meerganj where 1 died, and more than a dozen Kanwariyas have died so far and more than 100 injured. So this was the responsibility of the government to provide them a safe passage. This is totally the failure of the Bharatiya Janata Party government administration. This was their responsibility. So they cannot do this. First of all, see, Bharatiya Janata Party and its uncalled ally MIM, they just want to divert public attention from pressing issues across the country like unemployment, like pricing rise.
So are you saying because there is unemployment, there should be no religious festivities in the country? Raksha Bandhan नहीं होना चाहिए, ईद नहीं होनी चाहिए, दिवाली नहीं होनी चाहिए क्योंकि unemployment है?
I'm saying जो गवर्नमेंट की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है उसको गवर्नमेंट फुलफिल नहीं कर रही है. गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट फुलफिलिंग इट्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. गवर्नमेंट इज जस्ट ट्राइंग टू डाइवर्ट पब्लिक अटेंशन. दे आर जस्ट मेकिंग इट अ पॉलिटिकल इशू. दिस इज नॉट अ पॉलिटिकल इशू, दिस इज अ रिलीजियस इशू. बट यू नो these political parties from either Bharatiya Janata Party or MIM, they make all these issues political. All the religious issues, they make them political. We don't want to politicize this matter at all.
Respond to the Samajwadi Party spokesperson.
Yes, I must. First of all, Mr. Owaisi remains as venomous as he was, for the reason that when he has a problem that law-abiding citizens, while they are undertaking the Kanwariya Yatra and they are supported by the government, he has a problem with that. But same Mr. Owaisi was seen asking for ATMs in Muslim-dominated areas during demonetization. Same Mr. Owaisi said Yaqub Memon has been given capital punishment because he is a Muslim. And the argument that the Samajwadi Party makes, let me just blow that to pieces. Here is a picture. Wastage of public funds, other problem, this is his argument. This is Mr. Akhilesh Yadav having an iftar party at the chief minister residence at Kalidas Park when he was in power.
Cane on
Why didn't he also celebrate?
Why was Bharatiya Janata Party, was Sitapur not in Uttar Pradesh? Why were you charging cane on Kanwariyas in Sitapur? Why were you doing that? Day before yesterday.
1 minute, Mr. Haidar. 1 minute, Mr. Haidar. You know, religious iftar parties, if they can be held by Akhilesh Yadav, where is the problem?
No, let me complete my point, Navika.
Yes, Gaurav.
Navika,
I am saying that you should not impose
please do not interrupt. I'm short of time, Mr. Haidar. I'm short of time. Please do not interrupt. I'm going to lower your fader. I'm going to lower your fader. 1 minute.
Police administration and the state government should give a clear passage to Kanwariyas so that they should not get injured. There should not be road accident. They are getting killed across the state.
Okay,
this is my
point.
I just need a minute, Navika.
Yes, Gaurav.
Yes. Navika, now look at the kind of discrimination, unconstitutional and appeasement during the SP. This is the manifesto. And what does it say? कक्षा 10 पास मुस्लिम बालिकाओं को आगे की शिक्षा ग्रहण करने अथवा विवाह हेतु 30,000 रुपए के अनुदान का प्रावधान किया जाएगा. हिंदू बच्चियों के लिए, ईसाई बच्चियों के लिए क्यों नहीं किया जाएगा? थर्ड, construction of Hajj House. Hajj House has nothing to do with the Hindus, the Christians. Hajj House was fine because it was appeasement of the Samajwadi Party. But now if Kanwariyas are being supported by the government, they have a problem. And most importantly, arrangements even for processions of the Muslims are made by the government. There is no discrimination. And last but not the least, the budget that was given for Kabristan was 200 crore by Akhilesh Yadav in 2012 and 2013, 2 years. For Shamshan Ghat, it was zero, zilch. Why? This is the kind of appeasement that they indulge in. We believe in sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka prayas.
You know, if there is an objection that is being made by opposition parties in Uttar Pradesh, well, they don't have a very decent record themselves.
Yeah, and all the arrangements should be made by the government, but those visuals on the helicopter, IAS and IPS officer putting flowers, science, physics, altitude will tell you that those flowers won't even reach those poor Kanwariyas. It's just done for the cameras to appease their vote bank, the BJP vote bank. I mean, simple physics will tell you the flowers won't reach down from that altitude on the helicopter. So it's been done for no other reasons. I mean, that's ridiculous. You could have spent that money on better facilities so the Kanwariyas don't meet with an accident. There's better healthcare for them. There's better food for them. There are better other facilities for them. But then this is done for the cameras, just like the BJP does everything for the cameras. Owaisi is polarizing the situation because he's helping the BJP divert attention from the actual issues of our country.
Well, Shantanu Gupta, do you think it is just for the cameras?
Or explain how to reach them.
Not Navika, this year almost 4.5 crore. Almost 4.5 crore Kanwar Yatris are passing the way, and you know every Kanwar Yatri, and let me tell you the economics of the Kanwar Yatra. It's almost a 2,000 crore rupees economy. Every Kanwar Yatri spends on the food, on the puja samagri, on small hotels, dharmshala, even the Kanwar. And you know who makes the Kanwar? In Jwalapur, Meerut, Muzaffarnagar, a lot of Muslim people are engaged in making that wood Kanwar. It's almost 1,000 to 1,500 crore rupees economy. And the blessings of Shiva that come upon the country, that's priceless. And people are calculating the cost of flowers and helicopters. In fact, we all should bow down to this Kanwar Yatris, 4 to 5 crore Kanwar Yatris, who go all the way to up there to Nilkant and bless the whole nation. I don't know what kind of debate we are having if a chief minister is bestowing flowers on Kanwariyas, a lot of people have a problem in that also. No?
Well, the question really is men in uniform doing this, is that all right? It's a question many people would ask, and the other question is, what about other facilities? But of course, if there is a question on religion becoming part of governance, then clearly the Samajwadi Party will have to look at its own record and the Congress Party, because iftars were a matter of literally folklore when these parties have governed. If that wasn't religious, then how can showering petals on covers be religious at all? Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me on the debate. And before I sign off, once again, the cash haul continues to come in from Arpita Mukherjee's house in Kolkata, second destination, where these packets and packets full of cash, 2,000 rupee notes, 500 rupee notes, bags, 3 kgs of gold bars. Well, it's all coming in from Kolkata. But yes, the opposition has a point. Why should the ED go and discover all of this money that was stashed away? Well, do you agree with that? What do you think? Do write to us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the Newshour tonight. Good night. Be safe.
The News Hour at 9 will be right back after the break. You're watching the News Hour at 9. watching the News Hour at 9. Stay tuned.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivchankar.
3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ. ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಲಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಬೇಕು, ನೈತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರು ದೇಶಾದ್ಯಂತ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅತ್ತೆಯ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನೆಹರು ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಋಣ ತೀರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ 2 ಹೊತ್ತಿನ ಊಟ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. 3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಕಿಂಚತ್ತು ತ್ಯಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ತಯಾರಾಗದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನ್ನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಳು ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ.
Good evening and welcome. You are watching the News Hour Agenda. I am Padmaja Joshi. It was anger and pain that bubbled to the surface today in Karnataka. No one was spared this anger. Not the government, not the BJP, that is the party in power, and definitely not the people who have time and again tried to give cover fire to radicals in our country. The cover fire that has emboldened these elements to spread their wings from Rajasthan to Maharashtra to now Karnataka. After Kanhaiya, it was Umesh Kole and now Praveen. And it was anger at this repeated trend of innocents being butchered only for speaking up that burst forth after a 32-year-old Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha worker, Praveen Nettaru, was brutally murdered by 3 men in Dakshin Kannada. He was allegedly attacked with sharp weapons and left to bleed out after he was going home. A murder that was eerily reminiscent of what happened to Umesh Kole in Amravati and Kanhaiya Lal in Udaipur. But what was it that Pradeep did? Police suspect that it was a Facebook post that he wrote on the 29th of June. In this 1-month-old post, he gave a meme of Kanhaiya Lal's beheading and said, "Terrible secularists make drama of non-violence. Now, a poor tailor has been slaughtered only for supporting nationalist thinking. These fanatics are now barking that our Prime Minister is the next target." That's it. That's all he wrote. People to go for him. Now, the state is looking at the role of radical elements like the PFI and the SDPI being behind the murder.
Immediately, police have sung into action and they are trying to identify the culprits. Very soon they will be nabbed. Second thing is, since it's very close to Kerala border, the Karnataka police is in touch with Kerala police and we will nab them. We have taken this as a very serious matter. At the outset, it looks that it was a very pre-planned attempt and such similarities were there in other cases. So we are studying the whole thing into entirety and then we will go to the roots of it.
CPI और PFI का लिंक है ऐसे मैसेज मीडिया में वगैरह आ रहा है, मीडिया सोशल मीडिया में पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेट कर रहा है, लेकिन इसके लिए जो पीएफआई और एसडीपीआई को जो बढ़ावा दिया है वो उधर केरल में और इधर भी कर्नाटक में भी कांग्रेस पार्टी उसको बढ़ावा दे रहे है.
ಸರ್, ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಕ್ರೋಧ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇದ್ರ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜನ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಪತ್ತೆ ಹಚ್ಚುವಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಪೊಲೀಸರು ಅಪರಾಧಿಗಳನ್ನ ಬೆನ್ನತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸದ್ಯದಲ್ಲೇ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆ ಕೊಡಿಸುವಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಆಂಗಲ್ ನಲ್ಲೂ ವಿಚಾರಣೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಈ ಸರಿ ಬಿಡೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಡಿಜಿಪಿ ಅವ್ರನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳಿಸಿದೀವಿ. ಅವ್ರ ನೇತೃತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಪುತ್ತೂರಿನಲ್ಲೇ ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
The government is saying that nobody will be spared, but angry protesters were in no mood to be pacified. Their simple argument was, if it's the handiwork of the PFI, when will there be action? When will the people who are running riot be put behind bars? When will the denial end? When will those who have shied away from naming and shaming the problem that lies at the very heart of this violence finally have the guts to call a spade a spade? Will the country be able to face up to the reality of what is happening before we can finally get around to tackling it? Praveen's family certainly deserves that.
ಇವರಿಗಾದಾಗ ಇನ್ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಆಗ್ಬಾರ್ದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆ ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಮೂಲಕ ಕ್ರಮ ಕೈಗೊಂಡು ಅವರ ಕಾರ್ಯ ಮುಗಿಯುವ ಮುಂಚೆ ಯಾರವರನ್ನು ಹೀಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅವರನ್ನು ತಂದು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಬೇಕು. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಯಾವ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆ ಆಗಬೇಕೋ ಆ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆಯನ್ನು ನೀಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. ಇನ್ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಈ ಥರ ಆಗೋದು ಬೇಡ.
ಈಗ ಬಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಅವನು ನಮಗೆ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ಅವನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತೀರಾ ಬಡತನ, 3 ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು, ಒಬ್ಬ ಗಂಡು ಮಗ, ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಪೇಷಂಟ್. ನಮಗೆ ಇನ್ನು ಯಾವುದೇ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಟಿವಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ರಾಜಕೀಯವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದು ಮಾತಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ಸೂಕ್ತ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಇನ್ನು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಈಗೆಲ್ಲ ಆದರೆ ಒಂದು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ನಾಯಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಲ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥವೂ ಇಲ್ಲಲ್ಲ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಬೇಕು ನಮಗೆ ಮೈನ್ ಆಗಿ. ಒಂದು ಜೀವ ಹೋಯ್ತು, ಇನ್ನೇನು ಮಾಡೋದು? ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ಗಳೇ. ಇವತ್ತು 2-3 ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರ ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರನ್ನು ಈಗ ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಪಡಿಸಿ ಎಂತ ಮಾಡೋದಂತ ಹೇಳೋ ಒಂದು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಯಾವುದೇ ವಿಚಾರ ನಾವು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡಬಾರ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಇನ್ನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು.
ಆದ ಕಾರಣ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಎಷ್ಟಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಕೋಟಿಗಟ್ಟಲೆ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಶಾಶ್ವತ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಸಿಗುವಾಗೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಎಂತಿ ಅವರ ಕುಟುಂಬಕ್ಕೆ, ಒಂದು ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಳುವುದು ಎಷ್ಟೇ. ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವ ಏನು ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದಾನ, ಅವ ಏನು ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವನೇ ಅದನ್ನು ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ನಾವು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕೇಳುವುದು.
So when will this conspiracy of silence end? Or will the perennial obfuscation and whataboutery doom us to a fate of enduring one Kanhaiya every month?
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining us now is Mohan Vishwa, spokesperson of the BJP in Karnataka, Anurag Naidu, author, Gokul Chandran, political analyst, Sebastian Paul, former member of parliament and spokesperson of the CPIM, Ahmed Ayaz, political analyst. In a while, I'll also be joined by the Home Minister of Karnataka. When he speaks of a hidden hand, who exactly are they talking about and what stops them from cracking down on radical elements like the PFI? Till when will we hear the lip service? But let me go across now to our panel and ask you, Sebastian Paul, today the police said very clearly that it was a bike that came from Kerala. It had a Kerala registration plate. Ministers in Karnataka are saying, you give shelter to radical outfits like SDPI, PFI. They come across the border and they perpetrate violence in Karnataka. Mr. Paul.
It is really unfortunate and deplorable, that incident that happened in Karnataka, in an area which is adjacent to the state of Kerala. But it's also unfortunate that a responsible person from Karnataka, who is an authority, accusing Kerala of harboring such elements. It is a fact that extremist groups, both Hindu, Muslim and political, are functioning in Kerala, committing so many crimes, and many of them are still remain undetected also.
Sorry, did you just say that extremist groups, Hindus and Muslims are functioning in Kerala and they are undetected?
No, they are not undetected, but certain persons who are responsible for certain crimes. For example, the CPM headquarters in Trivandrum, some explosive was thrown at the building a fortnight ago. Even now the police is unable to find out the persons, or police is even now remains clueless. So such things will happen. But what happened?
Sir, your party is in power. You are saying the police is clueless in your state. Then how will they have a clue what they are doing in other states?
No, that is happening everywhere. In all cases, the police cannot be able to detect the persons immediately. Sometimes it may
So you are saying that the PFI has a free run in your state and you are clueless. You can't do anything to stop them.
No, it is a fact. It is an admitted fact that such organizations are functioning in Kerala also.
Then why aren't you stopping them?
As it is functioning elsewhere.
If it's a fact that the PFI has a free run in your state, why aren't you stopping them?
No, now we are discussing about a crime that happened in Karnataka.
Now you are discussing a crime? The PFI has committed crimes in your state 15 years ago. They are responsible, they have been convicted for killing people, for attacking people as far back as 10 to 15 years ago. Why does the PFI still have a free run in your state, sir?
On that, I have no evidence who is behind this Karnataka murder, whether it is PFI or some other radical group.
Okay.
I have no evidence, I have no information.
Okay, you have no evidence, you have no information, but you admit that some radical elements like this do exist in your state, but you are unfortunately politicizing Mohan Vishwa. You are trying to palm off your problems onto Kerala and PFI.
No.
Padmaja, you should understand the fact here is, first of all, I'm sitting here with a great down heart today. It was very unfortunate to lose our Karyakarta, Mr. Praveen. And apart from Karyakarta, he is also a son, he is also a husband, and he's very innocent boy. You should see, if you go and see his social activities, the kind of work he has done from several years, it shows that, that boy is no way involved in any kind of, anti-social activity, nothing. He was just an ordinary social worker and he was working for our party. So these radical elements, the kind of killings which has happened in Karnataka from past 10 years or from 7-8 years, I can say, in Congress government also. So the pattern goes up there that, this kind of killings is done by either SCPI or PFI. Even though we don't have any clue as of now, it's almost 24 hours. But still, the pattern goes on to say that obviously it is PFI and SCPI, and also the police in South Kendra district or the Bangalore.
But the question being asked of you is, it's very convenient for you to now blame the Kerala government. What were you doing?
No.
If the PFI can come in, kill your own Karyakarta, I'm sorry, Mr. Mohan Vishwa, did you see the anger of the people today?
Not blaming.
It was directed at you.
I'm not blaming.
Not at Kerala. Not at
blaming.
PFI. It was about Nalin Katil and you. You could not save the life of Praveen.
No, I am not blaming. See, we should understand one fact, that what I am telling is, there are other radical elements or the states or governments or the political parties which are putting water to grow these kind of organizations. Say, for example, same Congress in the state of Karnataka today, there are few MLAs who openly distribute cash to these SDPI and P when they are out, the central jail, when some two riots happened, one in Kejalli, one in Padmaja. So
when you are watering poison, eventually it will kill us all. And this poison of radicalism is being watered, says Mohan Vishwa, by the likes of the Congress in Karnataka and the left in Kerala.
Yeah, Mr. Mohan Vishwa should hang his head in shame. His party and his government in Karnataka couldn't save their Karyakartas, and they are being killed one by one for the last 2-3 months, and is the third murder it seems. And this shows the lawlessness of the state of Karnataka, and shamelessly this person is coming here and lecturing on Congress, what Congress did, what Congress is doing. He should be ashamed to speak like this. First thing what they should do is, if they have a spine, if they have a good spine, they should ban PFI. This has been the demand of everyone for a long while. Even Padmaja, if you remember, we were discussing the same over a period of time regarding banning of PFI. And till now, no action has been taken, no reports have been submitted regarding...
No, but answer the question. He's saying that there is political, financial, moral, ideological support.
Why are you helping them to grow? Answer that. Why are you changing your goalpost?
When did Congress... Let me ask. When did Congress support PFI in Karnataka? What was the instance that you quote that Congress officially supported PFI in Karnataka? Tell me that.
Boss, Mr. Zamir Ahmad Khan, who openly
you tell me officially when was that incident that Congress party supported PFI and SDPI in Karnataka? You are lying to escape.
Have some common sense when you are talking. So he was the one who used red carpet for those culprits.
Now you are pointing fingers at Congress. You are pointing fingers at Congress to escape from the allegations that is being made.
He's saying that Zamir Ahmad Khan, an MLA of the Congress, supported an SDPI man who was attacking another Congress MLA. This is the kind of moral, political, ideological cover fire that is given to radical elements because you think of them as a vote bank. That's the unfortunate reality, Gokul Chandran.
Padmaja, I want to add one more incident. During COVID
time... No, not at all, Padmaja. That's what I am asking. Officially, I am talking about the official position of Congress party. There might be loose elements everywhere in every party.
Loose elements?
Let me come
loose
to the
elements,
official stand up.
Loose elements is not like he is coming around and posing next to you in a picture, sir. It is when you actively support them. And let me also give you another example of the level of indoctrination and infiltration of these radical elements as I bring back Sebastian Paul. You are saying, sir, that you cannot really pin blame on the left government or on Kerala or on people in Kerala. Do you know the level of infiltration of radical elements? A Kerala lady ASI, an assistant sub-inspector, was suspended for sharing PFI leaders' Facebook post against police and judiciary. This happened in Thiruvananthapuram on the 19th of July this year. Again, you had 3 members of the Kerala police accused of leaking sensitive information to extremist groups in Kerala. There were police officials who were in cahoots with the Popular Front of India. That is the level at which radical elements have been allowed to get into the system in your state, sir. And now that poison is spreading to neighboring states as well, Mr. Sebastian Paul.
No, I do not subscribe to the view that radical elements are being permitted to work here. But it is a fact that radical elements are here. My case is that radical elements are here not only in Kerala but elsewhere also. It is the duty of the government, and the government here in Kerala is doing its best to control these elements. But in spite of all our best efforts, political murders, counter murders, all these things are happening here, and so, in several occasions these radical groups will be blamed for the offense. But it is a fact. It is a fact, and it is unfair on anybody's part to say that the government of Kerala, the CPM government, is patronizing or helping or protecting these elements.
Okay, it's an unfair charge, Anurag Naidu.
Pardon me?
Anurag Naidu, your audio is mute. Can you please fix that?
Yeah. Padmaja, this is one of the rare times when we see CPIM and BJP speaking the same tone against PFI and SDPI and still no action. And this actually makes us think, whether are we really digging in the right direction? Because, Mr. Praveen, he was not a very radical activist, like many others who lost their lives in the past. He was a simple, common activist, and that's why you see emotions pouring in Udupi and, Uttar Karnataka, and the action. This is the ocean of people of their own party. They are ganging up against their own president, who is also, by the way, the local member of parliament of Uttar Karnataka. So is it really, because I'm very surprised that both CPIM and BJP speaking the same tone still. In fact, union ministers are coming up, chief ministers coming up and categorically taking some names without any investigation being out. What is the difference? I mean, why chief minister has already taken a tone, even in the past, even many union ministers, in fact, Mr. Prahlad Joshi himself hinted out that he's suspicious about some organizations, but police has no statement to make in that. So what direction are they going, or what kind of a calculation? It is very tough to believe, but losing a life of an innocent youth
It's absolutely condemnable, and it's very painful. It's not about BJP or Congress or any other political party. Even if it was a Congress or youth Congress member, yesterday we also condemned, by the way, Srinivas tackling, the way Delhi police tackled Mr. Srinivas in Delhi. It is about how system deals with the youth and the activists. And if we cannot ensure a safe environment, then I'm sorry, we are not in a safe democracy.
Answer that, Mohan Vishwa. See, the questions will be asked of you, sir. Because today the people are speaking. You can keep trying and passing on the buck and say, oh, radicals are responsible, or the CPM is responsible, or the Congress is responsible. That is why you are in government. Fix it. Ban them. Arrest them. It has been 12 hours, sir. 24 hours. Not even a single arrest has been made. 15 detentions. Where are the arrests? Who are these people who are being arrested? Who are the murderers?
See, Padmaja, I do agree. There might be a bit of delay in arrest or investigation, or rather, I can say that there might be a small element of the intelligence would have been much more advanced than would have been happened even before they would have thought. I do agree that fact, because as he said, the lost life is lost life. As I said initially, he's also a son, he's also a husband, so he was the sole breadwinner for the family. That also we should think. So our government is putting a hard effort on that, especially from the night itself.
Ban it. Your government should not sit on its hands and ban the organization.
Ban is not the solution.
Every 3 months you stand up and say PFI did this, PFI did that, PFI did X, PFI did Y.
The ban is not the solution. If you ban today, tomorrow the same members of that particular banned organization will start one more. So there is no end to it. So that is what happened, right?
So then you are helpless in front of them.
The members
so then you are admitting you are helpless. Yesterday it was CME, today it is PFI, tomorrow it will be some XXI. Are you helpless? Will people keep
that? No, it's not helpless. Banning is not the solution. The solution is taking left and right on this radical element through law and order situation. That's all, nothing else. Because banning is not a solution. The moment you ban, they'll come up with one more organization.
But then what have you done left and right? When it happened in Udaipur, questions were asked of Ashok Gehlot. Today, Mr. Bommai has to answer. 24 hours and there have been no arrests, sir. How was a man killed in this fashion?
See, as I told you, the investigation is gone. The files are made. 3 teams are working in Karnataka. 2 teams are there in Kerala. The investigation is happening. The search is happening. See, the police are working on their own way. So let us give some sort of time.
Okay, in fact,
and let the facts come out.
We are just being joined by the Home Minister as well. We'll ask him more specific questions of what is the timeline. But Ahmad Ayaz, the question on banning and the question of arrest will be asked of the government. What about the people who refuse to even call out the murderers for what they are? They are killing for a radical ideology.
Before that, it's very sad, Padmaja, that the killing has taken place in Karnataka, the most peaceful place which we have seen in the past, and people used to love to live in Bangalore and shift to Bangalore. And if such a situation is such killings are taking place there in Bangalore, you can understand that the security situation there.
Then you can understand that how a peaceful place can be turned into a hotbed for radicalism. That is what one can understand. That the kind of beliefs one associated only with the most uncivilized parts of the world are now coming into the heart of our most metropolitan states. How?
Let me complete that. But to say that it is PFI, I slightly will not disagree at this stage. Why? Because it is yet at an investigation stage. If some responsible political party calls it that it is a particular group without any investigation, it looks that there is something which possibly somebody wants to communalize it and to create a situation like that.
Communalize it. Anurag Naidu, somebody wants to communalize it by bringing in the PFI. Because communalizing it will bring back Praveen's life.
I don't know what is communal about it, Padmaja. A murder is a murder, and we cannot tag it whether it's communal or non-communal. And he rightly said so. Uttar Karnataka is essentially an extremely peaceful place. In fact, I've been there many times. I can tell you, Udupi, other places adjacent to Udupi, they're extremely peaceful. Now, my larger fear is if you see this emotions and the ocean and the spirits being flared up, this youth. This can turn out to be otherwise. There might be reactions, and God forbid, I really want to expect peace. But these are also the youth, and lakhs of them on the screen who are on the street standing, tall and strong for Praveen. I'm really concerned about the law and order situation. It is not the time to blame A or B. It is not the time to do politics, but we have a larger problem here and we need to understand that.
Absolutely, and which is why we are saying that the idea is not everyone should maintain their peace, and for that the responsibility falls on the government to take immediate action to ensure that the culprits are brought to book. Merely politics, lip service, passing the buck and trying to blame somebody else is not going to suffice. Praveen's family deserves that from the people that they elected into government. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. I have to quickly go across because I'm being told we have the Home Minister here with us, Mr. Arga Yanendra. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us. Right at the outset, can you please tell us about what is the progress in the investigation so far? What do we know about the killers?
ಈಗ ನಿನ್ನೆ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಮಂಗಳೂರು ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯ ಪುತ್ತೂರಿನ ಬಳಿ ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಅನ್ನೋರ ಹತ್ಯೆ ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಈ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಪೊಲೀಸರು ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಚರಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಸುಮಾರು 15 ಜನರನ್ನು ವಶಕ್ಕೆ ಪಡೆದು ಈಗ ಇಂಟ್ರಾಗೇಷನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಸುಮಾರು 6 ತಂಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪೊಲೀಸರು ಕಾರ್ಯಾಚರಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕೇರಳ ಬಾರ್ಡರ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದಾಗಿ ಕೇರಳ ಸ್ಟೇಟಿನ ಒಳಗಡೆನೂ ಹೋಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಕೇರಳದ DG ಅವರ ಹತ್ರನೂ ಕೂಡ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಅವರ ನೆರವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಪಡಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ.
Okay, the big takeaway is that the minister is saying that they're going to send teams to Kerala for further investigation, and that 6 different locations the searches are being conducted. 15 people are being questioned. But any indications so far, sir, about which organization is involved? What are their affiliations?
ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಂಗಲ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ತನಿಖೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆದ ನಂತರವೇ ಯಾವ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಇದ್ರ ಹಿಂದಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಹೇಳಿ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಆ ಕರಾವಳಿಯ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಕೆಲವು ಮತಾಂಧ ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಹಿಜಾಬ್ನಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಅನೇಕ ಪ್ರಕರಣಗಳನ್ನು ಅವರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೇ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಹಿಂದೂ ವಿರೋಧಿ, ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ವಿರೋಧಿ ಕೃತ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಭಾಗವಹಿಸುವಂತಹದ್ದು ಗಮನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಹಿಂದಿನಿಂದನೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಪೊಲೀಸರು ತನಿಖೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Okay, interesting. You're saying that the same organizations who were involved in the anti-hijab protests in the area could be investigated. Campus Front of India, as we know, was involved there. So clearly your indication is in that direction. But are you saying that this is the PFI? Radical elements are being spoken of. Do you suspect involvement of some radical elements?
ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ PFI ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಈ ಮತಾಂಧ ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳು ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಅದೇ ಇದೆ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಈ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ತನಿಖೆ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇನ್ನು ನಾನು ಒಬ್ಬ ಗೃಹ ಸಚಿವನಾಗಿ ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ ಈ ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ.
Okay, so PFI and other organizations are under the radar. Some people have also in fact spoken of Praveen's social media posts, including what he had written about Kanhaiya Lal. Could there be a link between the post about Kanhaiya Lal's beheading and his murder?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಸದ್ಯ ಈ ವಿಚಾರಣೆ ಹಂತದ ಅನೇಕ ಸಂಗತಿಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ನನಗೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಮಾಹಿತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂರ್ಣ ನಮಗೆ ತಮ್ಮೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹಂಚಿಕೊಳ್ಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆ್ಯಂಗಲ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ತನಿಖೆ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಪೊಲೀಸರು ಬಹಳ ವಿಶೇಷವಾದಂಥ ತನಿಖಾ ದಳಗಳನ್ನು ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Sir, I'm going to ask you straight away. There are a number of cases where the PFI has been blamed in your state. Are you going to ban them in Karnataka?
ಈ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಸಂಪರ್ಕ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಬ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದು ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರ. ಅದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಮಯಾವಕಾಶವನ್ನು ಕಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸರಿಯಾದಂಥ ಸಮಯಕ್ಕೆ ಸರಿಯಾದಂಥ ನಿರ್ಧಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ತಗೊಳುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ ಅವರ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ಗಳು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಚರಿಸ್ತವೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ವರದಿಯನ್ನು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕೊಡೋ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರದ police ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ.
Okay, that's a big piece of breaking news being given by the Karnataka Home Minister, that they are already in touch with the centre and they are discussing a ban on the PFI, at least in the state of Karnataka. All the relevant information has already been passed on to the centre. When you speak of a cooperation with the Kerala police, what kind of cooperation are you looking at?
ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂಥ ಹ್ಯಾಬಿಚುವಲ್ಸು, ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲ್ಸು ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಕಣ್ಣಿಟ್ಟು ಅವರ ಚಲನವಲನವನ್ನು ವೀಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಅಲ್ಲಿಯವರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಪೊಲೀಸರ ಜೊತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪರ್ಕ ಇದೆ. ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಸಹಕಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಇಂಥ ಕೃತ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾರ್ಡರ್ನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಎರಡೂ ರಾಜ್ಯದ ಪೊಲೀಸರು ಪರಸ್ಪರ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಾರ್ಯಾಚರಣೆ ಮಾಡದೇ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಎರಡೂ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಗೊಂದಲಗಳನ್ನು ನಿವಾರಣೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಕೇರಳ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೂ ಮಾತನಾಡುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸ ಸದ್ಯದಲ್ಲೇ
Ultimately, what would you say to your karyakartas, sir? This investigation is happening. You're saying arrest will happen very soon. The PFI will get banned, but a life has been lost. Your karyakartas are angry, and many of them have even resigned, saying that you were unable to protect the life of Praveen. What would you say to them as the Home Minister of Karnataka?
ಖಂಡಿತ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆಕ್ರೋಶ ಆಗೋದು ಸಹಜ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರನ್ನ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ, ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಇಂಥ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ ಅನೇಕರ ಮೇಲೆ FIRನೇ ಆಗ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳ ವೀಕ್ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿ 1 ತಿಂಗಳೊಳಗಾಗಿ ಮರ್ಡರ್ ಕೇಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಂಥವ್ರ ಕೇಸನ್ನು ವಾಪಸ್ ತೆಗೆದಂಥ ಸಂದರ್ಭಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಆದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಂಥ ದುಷ್ಟಶಕ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನು ದಮನ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ಇವರನ್ನ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಬಂಧನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಹರ್ಷ ಕೊಲೆ ಪ್ರಕರಣ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಚಂದ್ರು ಕೊಲೆ ಪ್ರಕರಣ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಹುಬ್ಬಳ್ಳಿಯ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಳಂದನ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾರು ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಯಾರನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಿಡದೇನೆ ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಮೊಕದ್ದಮೆಯನ್ನು ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕೇವಲ 48 ಅವರ್ಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ 2 ದಿನದ ಒಳಗಾಗಿ ಇವ್ರನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹಿಡಿದು ಜೈಲಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿಸುವಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಮತ್ತು ಅವ್ರ ಕನ್ವಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ APPಗಳನ್ನ ನೇಮಕ ಮಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ಇವರ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಒಂಥರ ಮೃಗೀಯ ಸ್ವಭಾವಗಳನ್ನು ಬಂದ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸುಮಾರು 60 ವರ್ಷದ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ಸಿನ ಆಡಳಿತದಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ ಚಿಗುರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 1 ವರ್ಷ 1 ದಿನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇವೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಪೊಲೀಸರನ್ನ ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿ ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಈ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಚರಣೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರಿಗೆ ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೊಬ್ಬ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ, ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಣ್ಣ ತಮ್ಮನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಂಥ ಒಂದು ನೋವು, ಆಕ್ರೋಶ ಇದು ಉಂಟಾಗುವಂಥದ್ದು ಸಹಜ. ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಸರ್ಕಾರದ ನಿಲುವು ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟವಾಗಿದೆ, ಬದ್ಧತೆಯಿಂದ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ನೋವು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮುಂದಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇದರ ಫಲಿತಾಂಶವನ್ನು ನಾವು ತೋರಿಸ್ತೇವೆ.
Okay, Mr. Home Minister, thank you very much. You were sure that there will be action within 48 hours. A life has been lost. There is anger and there is also despair where people think that they have been left to fend for themselves. You need to win back the trust of your own electorate. Thanks very much for speaking to us. We'll be keeping a very, very close eye on what happens in Karnataka. Meanwhile, in Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand over the last 13 days, lakhs of Kanwariyas all over India have been undertaking the arduous journey to collect water from the holy Ganga river and offer aid to Mahadev. A quest that has concluded yesterday. The Kanwar Yatra is over, but the controversy continues about how the Yogi government, in fact even the Uttarakhand government, has left no stone unturned to ensure a smooth passage for these Kanwariyas. Yesterday, the DM and IG of the state were seen showering petals on pilgrims from a chopper in Meerut. The SP of Shamli was seen rubbing the feet of a pilgrim seen as a seva by many. Today, several politicians also jumped in saying that why is it that there is pool for Kanwariyas but kante for others like Muslims? Why is it that in Uttar Pradesh Muslims get arrested simply because they offered namaz in public but Kanwariyas get treated like VIPs?
कांवड़ यात्री अगर निकले हैं और उनकी सेवा समाज भी कर रहा है, हमारी पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता भी कर रहे हैं और सरकारी सिस्टम से भी हम सदा स्वागत करते रहे और स्वागत कर रहे हैं, तो इससे जिनको दर्द हो रहा है उनको कोई मुसलमानों से प्यार नहीं है, वह वोट बैंक उनका कैसे बन जाए, इसलिए इस प्रकार के जहरील केवल बयान देने का काम करते हैं.
After BJP coming to power, especially after Narendra Modi ji becoming the Prime Minister, all these Hindutva rituals are being followed in the official functions. If you see the unveiling of the emblem, Ashoka emblem on the top of the new Parliament building also, all these pujas and rituals are being done by the Prime Minister of a country.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
We have Anurag Bhadoria, National Spokesperson, Samajwadi Party, here with us. Advocate Talha Amir Rashadi, Spokesperson of Rashtriya Ulema Council. My first question is to you, Guru Prakash, National Spokesperson of the BJP. And the question which everyone is asking, पैसा किधर से आता है? चॉपर का?
नहीं, ये मैं सुन रहा था और अभी जो लोग कह रहे हैं, देखिए निश्चित रूप से when the Honorable Prime Minister of India says सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास, we believe in 1.3 billion people of India. We believe in their collective aspirations and we are going to speak for them. But the problem arises, Padmaja, when there is appeasement, when there is selective appeasement. ये कोई आज हो रहा है क्या? ये पहले से होता आ रहा है और आगे भी होता रहेगा. The question I want to ask Mr. Owaisi, because it was Mr. Owaisi who started this entire controversy. What has he done for the Muslim community? आपने क्या किया है? आपने आज तक मुस्लिम्स में जो गरीब हैं, जो पछड़े हैं, जो पसमानदा हैं, उनकी आपने आवाज उठाई है? आज तक आपने तो नहीं उठाया है. बट ऑन द अदर हैंड, व्हेन पार्टी लाइक बीजेपी इज विनिंग ऑन सीट्स लाइक रामपुर एंड आजमगढ़, अगर हम रामपुर और आजमगढ़ में चुनाव जीत रहे हैं और बड़े मार्जिन से चुनाव जीत रहे हैं, तो हमें बताता है कि हमें सभी वर्गों का समर्थन मिल रहा है, सभी वर्गों का आशीर्वाद प्राप्त हो रहा है. तो इस राजनीति में आपको फंसने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. उत्तर प्रदेश की जनता हो, देश की जनता हो, ये बांटने की राजनीति मत करिए. आप सबकी बात करिए और सबका साथ सबका विकास में जुड़िए तो अच्छा रहेगा.
अनुराग भदौरिया,
देखिए यही सवाल तो हमारा भारतीय जनता पार्टी से है कि बांटने की राजनीति मत कीजिए. जहां तक कि फूल की बारिश है, ये एक जगह नहीं, कई जगह मुस्लिम समुदाय के मुस्लिम भाइयों ने भी फूल की बारिश की है कांवड़ियों के ऊपर में. तो फिर कौन भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तरफ से ये सब बयानबाजी कर रहा है? क्या भारतीय जनता पार्टी स्क्रिप्ट देती है अपनी बयानबाजी करने के लिए? कौन, किस वजह से ये बोला जाता है? कौन भारतीय जनता पार्टी की बी टीम है? कौन क्योंकि भारतीय जनता पार्टी को इस बात की दिक्कत हो रही है कि यहां हिंदू मुस्लिम सिख ईसाई कैसे आपस में मिलकर रह रहे हैं, हिंदू मुस्लिम कैसे आपस में कांवड़ियों पे फूल बरसा रहे हैं वो लोग. अब उनके सौहार्द का वो आपस में एक हो रहे हैं, तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी को डर लगने लगता है कि जब एक हो जाएंगे तो समाज के अंदर में ये फिर समाज के असली मुद्दों पर बात करेंगे, ये समाज के असली मुद्दों पर सरकार को घेरेंगे, ये महंगाई बेरोजगारी पर सरकार को घेरेंगे, क्योंकि वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी चाहती नहीं है कि हिंदू मुस्लिम एक हो पाए.
Do you have a problem with this फूलों की बारिश, और you're saying ये अच्छा है?
नहीं, मैंने कहा प्रॉब्लम है. मैं कहता हूं प्रॉब्लम भारतीय जनता पार्टी को है. उनके पेट में दर्द हो रहा है कि मुस्लिम भाई भी क्यों उन पे कांवड़ियों पे बारिश कर रहे हैं फूलों की. क्यों?
नहीं, क्योंकि आपके पार्टी के नेता हैं जिन्होंने पूछा है कि भाई ये फूलों की बारिश क्यों हो रही है? मुसलमान नमाजियों पर कांटे और हिंदुओं के ऊपर फूल,
वो अलग चीज है.
क्यों?
नहीं, वो अलग चीज है. वो इस बात पे, इस संदर्भ में नहीं है, वो दूसरे संदर्भ. उसमें एक बोला गया कि भाई अगर इस हिंदुस्तान में हिंदू मुस्लिम सिख ईसाई सभी भारत माता के बच्चे हैं, हाँ, और सबको यहां पे समान अधिकार है, तो समान अधिकार सबको मिलना चाहिए. और ये हमें संविधान ने दिया है. तो ये जिम्मेदारी सरकार की होती है कि सबका समान सम्मान करें, समान रूप से सबका सम्मान हो.
तो और लाठी भी नहीं, लाठी भी सम्मान कैसे नहीं हो रहा है? एग्जांपल दीजिए.
लाठी भी बरसे तो अपनी मर्जी से नहीं, अपने हिसाब से नहीं, कानून के हिसाब से बरसे.
तो कानून के हिसाब से होता है ना अनुराग जी. जैसे कि 4 कांवड़िए हैं जिन्होंने एक दूसरे कांवड़िए की हत्या कर दी, उसको पीट के मार दिया, उन सबको उठा करके बंद कर दिया गया है. तो ऐसा तो नहीं है कि उनके ऊपर भी फूलों की बारिश की, जाओ भाई आप हत्या करो, जाओ तुम्हारे ऊपर फूल बरसा रहे हैं.
कांवड़ियों की बात नहीं है. बात समाज में ये जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी माहौल बनाने की बात करती है. हाँ. भाई जब हम लोग की सरकार थी तब तो इस तरह की बातें नहीं हुई, कहीं किसी तरह की घटना नहीं होती थी कांवड़ियों के ऊपर में, क्योंकि उनका सम्मान होता था. भारतीय जनता पार्टी के समय में ये दिक्कतें क्यों आती है, बयानबाजी क्यों होती है? पहली बात तो धर्म के नाम पे बयानबाजी करने वाले को ही हमें दोषी ठहराना चाहिए. कौन है जो धर्म के नाम पे बयानबाजी करता है, उसको उसके ऊपर कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए.
वैसे तो सबसे पहले ओवैसी साहब से भी सबसे पहले तो कांग्रेस पार्टी ने पूछा था कि भाई ये जिस जीप से फूलों की बारिश हो रही है, इस जीप का पेट्रोल किधर से आ रहा है? ये जो चॉपर उड़ाया जा रहा है, उस चॉपर का एविएशन टरबाइन फ्यूल किधर से आ रहा है?
तो सवाल तो ये भी उठता है कि कुछ पार्टियां भारतीय जनता पार्टी की बी टीम की तरह काम करती है. उनके ये जो हेलीकॉप्टर और जहाज में डीजल पेट्रोल कौन डालता है, ये भी तो बताए ना.
आप एक सेकंड, कांग्रेस को बीजेपी का बी टीम कह रहे हैं?
मैं कांग्रेस को नहीं कह रहा हूं. बी टीम जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी की काम करती रहती है, सब जानते हैं. जिनका काम है बयान देना, स्क्रिप्ट भारतीय जनता पार्टी से मिलती है, बयान दे दिया, उसके बाद जनता की बात नहीं करना है. जनता की असली समस्या पे नहीं बात बोलनी. आज तक कभी जनता की असली समस्या पे बात हुई क्या? जिस तरह से जीएसटी 5% बढ़ा, यहाँ पे लोग बिना भूख के जो छोटी मोटे खाना खाते भी थे, आटा चावल दाल रोटी सब्जी, पनीर, उसका महंगा हो गया, उस पर चर्चा नहीं होगी।
सो एक सेकंड, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू ऑब्जेक्ट टू एवरीथिंग फ्रॉम कांवड़ यात्रा टू लुलू मॉल, फिर आप कहते हैं कि असली मुद्दों पे बात नहीं हो रही है। सो प्रिंसिपली आप कह रहे हैं यू हैव नो प्रॉब्लम विद कांवड़ यात्रा, कांवड़ यात्रा कीजिए, फूल वर्षा कीजिए, कोई प्रॉब्लम।
हिंदुस्तान में सभी को अपने धर्म को, हम सब लोग, ये आजादी है अपने धर्म को अपने धूमधाम से मनाने की, उसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। दिक्कत भारतीय जनता पार्टी को, आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम धूमधाम से क्यों मना रहे हैं भाई?
ओके, ये बताइए गुरु प्रकाश, लीव एवरीथिंग एल्स असाइड, व्हाट बिजनेस डू policemen have massaging the feet of Kanwariyas?
नहीं पद्मजा, आई वॉज पेशेंटली लिसनिंग टू द सीनियर स्पोक्सपर्सन ऑफ समाजवादी पार्टी। बहुत तरह के आरोप लगाए उन्होंने और मैं शांतिपूर्वक धैर्य और धीरज से सुन रहा था।
भी नहीं आपके
उत्तर प्रदेश की जनता ने देखा था, जब हम गन्ना की बात करें तो चुनाव में जिन्ना को कौन लेकर के आया था?
भारतीय जनता पार्टी।
चुनाव में धर्म को आप लेकर के आए, जिन्ना की बात आपने की थी भैया। अब फिर आप बीच में बोल रहे हैं अनुराग जी ऐसे थोड़ी, अरे आपने
जिन्ना की तारीफ की थी, आपने आईएसआई को पठानकोट बुलाया था, तो आप तो करते हो प्रभु। जिन्ना की बात सबसे पहले किसने की है? हमने तो कभी नहीं की, आपने की है जिन्ना की तारीफ।
मैं नहीं बोलूंगा,
अब आप आपका शब्द नहीं है।
अच्छा अनुराग जी बोलने दीजिए उनको। आंसर
जब हम गन्ना की बात कर रहे थे तो जिन्ना की बात कर रहे थे, तो इनको बता दिया लोगों ने, रामपुर की जनता ने बता दिया, आजमगढ़ की जनता ने बता दिया। 2014, 2017, 2019, 2022 चारों चुनाव में इनको लोगों ने बता दिया है, इनके पास मुद्दे नहीं है। हम तो काम की बात करते हैं, सबका साथ सबका विकास सबका विश्वास।
ओके, यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट सबका विकास सबका विश्वास। आई स्टिल वांट टू कम बैक टू द पॉइंट, हाउ डू यू जस्टिफाई, चलिए यू आर सेइंग दिस इज अबाउट ऑनरिंग दिस आर्डुअस जर्नी दैट इज अंडरटेकन बाय Kanwariyas etc. How do you justify going out of the way, people massaging the feet? Day before yesterday we had some policemen who were carrying tiranga, which is fine, but they in uniform are saying bum bum bhole. But they are men in uniform, they don't have any business doing all this.
Padmaja ji, can you stop them from doing it? It's a matter of faith. It's a matter of
the government should stop them. The police, the uniform doesn't have any religion. जब आप वर्दी पहनते हैं तो आप बम बम भोले या फिर आप जय श्री राम नहीं बोलते हैं।
नहीं पद्मजा जी, देखिए ऐसा है कि आप उनको रोक सकते हैं क्या?
सरकार को रोकना चाहिए।
नहीं,
सरकार को रोकना चाहिए।
यूपी में दरोगा ने दाढ़ी रखी थी, आपकी सरकार ने उसकी दाढ़ी कटवा दी। एक मुस्लिम दरोगा ने दाढ़ी रखी थी, वो दाढ़ी करके नौकरी नहीं कर पाया, उसे सस्पेंड कर दिया गया। आप बताइए क्यों आपकी सरकार ने रोका, क्यों उसे सस्पेंड किया गया?
नहीं, रिलीजन इज मैन्स ओन बिजनेस।
आप बताइए ना।
अच्छा वेट अ सेकंड, आप देखिए अब आप दोनों को मौका मिला है, अब आप दोनों घेरेंगे, उनको जवाब देने दीजिए, जवाब देने दीजिए।
पद्मजा जी क्या?
अरे सबसे ज्यादा पद्मजा जी तो आप बोल रहे हैं अनुराग जी। एक सेकंड, answer this Guru Prakash. When you talk about, just a second, there is a very big line, not even a fine line, between saying we are doing something for the good of Kanwariyas and then doing all out appeasement to facilitate their journey is one thing. आप उन्हें पानी पिलाइए, आप शिविर लगाइए, आप उनका पैर क्यों मसाज कर रहे हैं, और वो भी पुलिस वाले?
पद्मजा जी, ये वन ऑफ इंसिडेंट है, ये वन ऑफ इंसिडेंट को आप ढूंढ करके उसको क्यों खबर बना रहे हैं? इट इज अ मैटर ऑफ लॉ एंड ऑर्डर। इट इज अ मैटर ऑफ लॉ एंड ऑर्डर। अगर स्मूथ कंडक्ट तो उसमें किसको समस्या है?
ओके, you will want to, I think any tax paying public को समस्या होगी. This is not the kind of image that you want to see. That being said, Talha Amir Rashadi, this should be reined in. This cannot be acceptable for anyone that the police behaves in a partisan fashion while in uniform. Now, Talha Amir Rashadi, when everyone talks about कि आप भाई इनके ऊपर फूल क्यों बरसा रहे हैं, पैसे किधर से आ रहे हैं, 51 लाख का हज हाउस जब बनता है तब तो किसी को प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती है। हिंडन के किनारे आपका 2016 में अखिलेश यादव ने 7 स्टोरी हज हाउस बनाया सितंबर 5, 2016 में। नोबडी हैड अ प्रॉब्लम। 51 करोड़, सॉरी, नॉट इवन 51 लाख। व्हाट हैपेंड टू द सेपरेशन ऑफ स्टेट एंड रिलीजन एट दैट टाइम?
प्रॉब्लम किसको है?
पद्मजा जी, अगर किसी को प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी तो सवाल आता ही नहीं। अभी राम मंदिर पे कितना खर्चा किया गया? 11,000 करोड़ रुपए तो इसी बजट में दिया गया, किसी ने ऐतराज किया? गंगा साफ करने के लिए पूरा मंत्रालय बना दिया गया, किसी ने ऐतराज किया? यात्राओं के लिए तमाम बजट पास किए जा रहे हैं, किसी ने ऐतराज किया? शिशु मंदिर पे इतना आपने बजट पास कर दिया, किसी ने ऐतराज किया? आप मुझको ये बताइए मैं कितना नाम लूं, नाम लेते लेते मैं थक जाऊंगा। आप स्टेट चॉपर यूज कर रहे हैं। यू हैव द बीजेपी हैज कम टू द लिमिट ऑफ अपीजमेंट। दे ऑलवेज ट्राई एंड शाउट दैट द मुस्लिम्स आर बीइंग अपीज्ड बाय सो कॉल्ड सेक्युलर पार्टीज। The BJP has come to the limit of appeasement by, misusing the government machinery for Kanwariyas. They are being given foot massage by officers in uniform. Isn't this tokenism? Isn't this is appeasement? My question here is to the BJP spokesperson कि आप मुझे ये बताइए कि वो जो मेरठ में एक पुलिस चौकी भी थी जहाँ के चौकी इंचार्ज एक मुसलमान थे, सिर्फ कांवड़ियों के एतराज करने पे उनका नाम तक मिटा दिया गया। ये कौन सा गवर्नमेंट का रूल है भाई? आप ये बताइए कि ये बात कर रहे हैं कि कोई नारा लगाता है हर हर महादेव का पुलिस वाला, तो उसमें गलत क्या है? एक इनायत अली है, क्या हो सकता है नाम, मैं मिस कोट कर रहा हूँ, एक दरोगा था सब इंस्पेक्टर, उसे सस्पेंड कर दिया क्योंकि उसके चेहरे पे दाढ़ी थी उत्तर प्रदेश में। ये क्या था? अगर ये नारा लगा सकते हैं हर हर महादेव का, फूल बरसा सकते हैं, तो उसकी दाढ़ी से क्या दिक्कत थी? लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की सिचुएशन खराब हो रही थी या अपनी ड्यूटी परफॉर्म नहीं कर रहा था? जब तक उसने अपनी दाढ़ी मुड़वा नहीं ली, क्लीन शेव नहीं किया, उसने नौकरी पे दोबारा लाया नहीं गया, उसे सस्पेंड कर दिया गया। तो ये क्या है? ये टोकनिज्म नहीं है। उसके बाद आखिरी सवाल पद्मजा जी मैं पूछना चाहता हूं कि आप देखिए कि अभी अनुराग भदौरिया जी भी कह रहे थे, जो कि ट्विटर पे ही इनका पूरा विरोध होता है, सारे मुद्दे ट्विटर पे ही इनके होते हैं इसी चैम्बर में बैठकर। मैं बस ये सब भाजपा के प्रवक्ता से पूछना चाहता हूं कि जो कांवड़िया पे मुसलमान भाई फूल बरसा रहे थे, बारिश कर रहे थे, शरबत पिला रहे थे, अगर उनमें से कोई जोहर और असर की नमाज का वक्त हो जाता है और सड़क के किनारे नमाज पढ़ेंगे तो इनकी सरकार उन पे क्या कार्रवाई करेगी? और आखिरी सवाल की मुहर्रम की अभी यात्रा निकलने वाली, क्या स्टेट चॉपर यूज किए जाएंगे? मुहर्रम की यात्रियों पर भी फूल बरसाई जाएगी उस यात्रा पे भी? क्या फूल की बारिश की जाएगी मुहर्रम की यात्रा पे भी?
You will have to answer those questions as well, because if you are talking about facilitation and Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, Guru Prakash, then all of these questions will be posed at you. Yes, there should be facilitation, there should be Vikas and Saath of everyone, but not appeasement of either side. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much all gentlemen for joining me. Thanks for watching.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
The fact of the matter is, whether it is imported inflation, whether it is tinkering of GST for a longer period, the fact is that the burden is on the common man. And the common man, frankly, doesn't really care about what's happening in the United States, or the UK or Russia or Ukraine. They're worried about their day-to-day living and per capita incomes where they are in India. The pressure is as much, magnified on common people in this country than they are abroad. And of course, you have social security systems which exist abroad, which don't exist in India. So I come back to asking you the same question. Is the government really being rather hard-hearted when it looks...
You're watching the News Hour at 10. The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break. News Hour at 10.
most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ. ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಲಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಬೇಕು, ನೈತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಮನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರು ದೇಶಾದ್ಯಂತ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅತ್ತೆಯ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ, ನೆಹರು ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಋಣ ತೀರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇವತ್ತು ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ 2 ಹೊತ್ತಿನ ಊಟ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. 3-4 ತಲೆಮಾರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ನೆಹರು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ, ಸೋನಿಯಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಕಿಂಚತ್ತು ತ್ಯಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ತಯಾರಾಗದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ತಿಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನ್ನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಳು ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ.
He has openly confessed, he has openly admitted. In fact, taking this cognizance, I think our agencies should book a case, should really book a case against him and also make an enquiry, because he would be knowing who are all the beneficiaries.
A gold biscuit weighing 1 kg concealed under a seat was recovered in an aircraft flying from Dubai. After the gold was seized, the passenger who smuggled it has also been detained. Suspended BJP MLA Prashant Jagdev has been released from jail after top put forth multiple conditions, including furnishing a bail bond of 30,000 rupees. The court has ordered appearance again on the 3rd of August. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla has expressed his condolences for the family of the 5 people, including 4 children who died due to heavy rains in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. India will be hosting 2025 Women's World Cup for the first time since 2013. Bangladesh and England will host T20 World Cups in 2024 and 2026 respectively.
The fact of the matter is, whether it is imported inflation, whether it is tinkering of GST for a longer period, the fact is that the burden is on the common man. And the common man, frankly, doesn't really care about what's happening in the United States or the UK or Russia or Ukraine. They're worried about their day-to-day living and per capita incomes where they are in India. The pressure is as much, magnified on common people in this country than they are abroad. And of course, you have social security systems which exist abroad, which don't exist in India. So I come back to asking you the same question. Is the government really being rather hard-hearted when it looks at these issues? After all, running a country of the kind that India is, with poor middle classes, lower middle classes forming the bulk of the population, do you think the government is doing enough to cushion the impact on these classes of people?
So let me say that as a policy maker, one has to make various trade-offs. So first of all, let me be clear that the government is fully cognizant of the spike in inflation. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen the measures we have taken, including the Reserve Bank tightening monetary policy. So clearly, the tightening of monetary policy is one response to bringing down inflation. But do remember that this is a trade-off, because if you do tighten monetary policy too fast, too quickly, yes, it will bring down inflation, but then it will slow down growth, it will slow down incomes and so on and so forth. So there is a balancing act that has to be done. Ultimately, what do we want to do? We want to increase as far as possible the trajectory of welfare and real incomes. And in that context, we have to trade off between growth and inflation. So the trade-off that we are making right now is, rather than tighten so harsh that growth slows down, we are tightening somewhat, but not so much that growth slows down too much. So keeping GDP growth going, create jobs, which is an important question, which I hope we will come to later on. These are issues that are also foremost in our mind. So given this balance we have done, I think the Reserve Bank's response is the correct one for this point in time.
Well, Sanjeev Sanyal, governments are not necessarily only policy makers. They are also political entities, and you understand politics as much as anybody else. I want to ask you a simple, straightforward question that is...
No. I cannot answer any questions on politics. I'm a policy maker. So if there are political questions, I'm afraid I will simply not be in a position to answer them.
Well, that disclaimer taken on board, but I'm still asking you the question that when policy makers within the government do not have enough measures that solve problems of the common people of India, they end up being called insensitive and arrogant because they're winning elections anyway. They don't really need to bother about the common man. That is the question that often comes up. How do you think the government can respond to that?
As I said right in the beginning, I'm not a politician, and winning or not winning elections is a concern of the political leadership. I can tell you the key here is that as a policymaker, I need to maintain macroeconomic stability in an environment where clearly there are serious threats to it, the rest of the world. You've already seen neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, going into vicious cycles on their macroeconomic management. We are seeing serious issues with inflation in Europe, in US. These are turbulent times. So for me, very important that in these turbulent times, I keep a steady ship. Yes, I have to make sure that inflation doesn't spiral up. That is certainly a concern. It is a concern to the average man, and it is a concern to me personally as well. I mean, I buy the same vegetables and fuel you do. At the same time, do remember that I have to also make sure that growth keeps going, because we are, after all, recovering out of 2 years of very difficult COVID pandemic related disruptions. And so in a situation where the growth is finally doing reasonably well, I do not want to create extra hurdles than what is absolutely necessary. So a balancing act has to be done. I think the Reserve Bank and the Ministry of Finance are doing a fine job so far, and I wouldn't get too thrown off by political rhetoric or by advice from international experts who have clearly not been able to predict how these things were going to pan out.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News Now Overnight with me, Priya Bahil. Here are the top stories you need to know about. A month before being hacked, Karnataka BJP Yuva Morcha worker Praveen had put out a post condemning religious fanaticism for Kanhaiya Lal's beheading in Udaipur. Family says it was a planned murder.
It should be banned. It is anti-national activity to create a disharmony and communal violences.
Anger and outrage over a BJP government in Karnataka for letting down Praveen. 6 teams formed to probe PFI role in alleged hate crime amid calls for ban on